Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
Hello and welcome everyone to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melinda. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our ongoing, infamous All Archetypes Ranked series, and a long line of traditions in which we have tier ranked all of the spells of Pathfinder 2. We've tier ranked all of the classes of Pathfinder 2, and of course now we are classifying everybody's uniquely favorite aspect of Pathfinder 2. Other games have spells, other games have classes, but the archetype system is kind of unique to Pathfinder 2, and here we are. We're taking it in. Yes, tonight is MNO archetypes. Tier ranking all feats next. Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Actually, we were talking about this the other day. Today, I said I don't think I would want to do a all feats ranked, and I for surely don't. But what I would love to do, a new Magic the Gathering set is coming out this week. Phyrexia, all will be one. And some of my favorite Magic content creators, every time a new set comes out, they get together with some of their friends and some of their, trusted professionals, and they kind of go through the set and they sort of talk about the cards, and they do give kind of a ranking. But I thought it would be fun to get together with maybe some patrons. We have a couple of people in our Patreon who I consider to be, top tier Pathfinder 2 experts, people who have literally put in hundreds, if not thousands of hours into the game. And I'm talking about really playing the game, not just, messing around on Reddit forums or Path Builder. I'm talking about gaming, playing, going through multiple APs. Anyways, some real, pros at the stuff. And I thought it'd be fun to get them together, and maybe not like in a, scheduled series, but just one at a time. Take something like a class, like fighter or cleric or sorcerer, and go through the class with them, and take a look at the class feats, talk about why certain class feats might perform better than others, talk about the mechanics, talk about flavor wins, flavor fails, mechanical strengths, mechanical weaknesses, and just kind of how the class fits into the greater ecosystem of the system. Because contrary to some popular belief, role-playing games are not just about creativity and expression and freedom. You don't need a game system to do that. You don't need a game system to create characters, and you don't need a game system in order to create stories. Authors have been doing that for a very, very long time, and there's plenty of books out there that are collaboratively written. We play role-playing games because that game aspect anchors us into a reality of a game structure, and that means that there are choices and actions that you can take within that game, and the choices and actions that you take come at the exclusion of other ones. So, I've been sort of hesitant to dive into that, but I don't think I'd want to do it as like a series, but I do think it'd be something interesting to maybe one day take a look at. GM Scott, hello. My favorite GM Scott is GM Scott. Damien says, I've been wanting you to do a class deep dives for since I started giving you money. Well, I don't want it to make it. Here's the thing. I don't want it to be like a situation where we feel like we have to cover every aspect of the class. I want it to be more of just like a conversation, if that makes any sense. But maybe that's, kind of what you're talking about. All right. Enough chit chat. Before I get into it tonight, obviously, thank you everybody for coming. If you enjoy this content, like, subscribe. YouTube studies have shown that if you ask for that, your engagement goes up. And ring the bell, because sometimes we do post live streams outside of our usual schedule, which is, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you really enjoy the conversation here, and you enjoy conversating, not just with me, but these fine, incredible, lovely folks over here in the chat, many and most of whom are members of our Knights of Last Call community Patreon. And being a part of that Patreon gives you a lot of benefits, gets you into our community, gets you into our community games. And I think a lot of people who really, really want to take a next step into role-playing games have found that this is an incredible community. And so, yeah, I think it's worth it. We've got a couple different tier levels, and you should definitely check it out if you're interested. Patreon.com/nice-to-last-call. There's a link in the description below. And if you like what we're doing tonight, feel free to send us a super chat or send us a Stream Elements tip. Link for that's below. Or you could maybe sign up and join the adventure and become a YouTube member. Get a cool little badge next to your name. Get access to some of our cool, fun emojis. All right. So here we are. The archetype list as we see it. Now, if my list here is correct, we've gone through about 90, give or take, of these archetypes. And, you know, so far, I think we have seen a pretty good distribution. I know that we've kind of, been eye-rolling these a little bit, but, we've gone through more than half of the archetypes now, and I think we can see generally that both on the mechanical weighting and on a flavor weighting, it's a pretty good distribution, tending to be solidly around C. And again, C does not mean bad. I know, I don't know why people think C means bad. C means totally playable. Nothing, it's not broken. It's not particularly, it's not broken one way or the other. Someone did say something though, and I did think about it. I'm going to downgrade Marshall to an A. Here's why. Because using my own definitions, S means problematic on a mechanical side. On a flavor side, it just means a total win. But S means that it's probably too good. And, maybe these things should be toned back a bit. But I don't want the Marshall to be toned back. I want the Marshall to stand as like a shining exemplar of what, archetypes, could be and should be and aspire to. So I'm going to put it right here on the kind of the verge of the cusp of A and S as sort of an example of this. Now, this got pretty clogged up. So what we're going to actually do for tonight and for the rest of the session is that I'm actually going to go ahead and hide a good chunk of these. By that, I mean all of them. So that we have plenty of... real estate. Somehow the Oracle didn't make it out of there. Okay. Oracle's like, no, do not hide me. Good on you, Oracle. There we go. Have I done 64 of these? No, I think I've done about 90 of them. 90 so far, give or take. So tonight, we are going to go and we're going to dig into the rest of the M's. There's not too many of them, only like 5. And then we've got only 1 N and I think 2 O's. So chances are good we might actually get through what we said we were going to get through tonight. So let us begin. Last time we finished up with the Marshall. And so tonight we are going to dive right into the Martial Artist. An archetype that has been with us since the Advanced Player's Guide and is pretty well received, I would say, in general, from the community. All right. Ayla says, I think there's a certain mindset that is ingrained in the tiered list culture that gives the impression that anything that isn't an S or A or tier is bad. Yeah, I agree. Oh, I don't like where that is. Sorry. Put that down there. Oh, Fake, you're okay. 64 streams. Yeah. Fake. This is our 64th live stream. That isn't an actual play. For some odd reason, I don't count actual plays in our live stream counts. So I think we've done about maybe about 20 actual play live streams between Rise of the Rune Lords and Quest for the Frozen Flame. So this is more like our 80th, 85th actual live stream. We've also done a number of live streams that were Patreon only, and those also didn't get counted in the number systems. But in terms of sort of system-specific streams, yes. is 64. Feel like keeping the S's and F would be good for context. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have them organized like that. It's just in Photoshop, Kragan. So maybe I'll do that for next time. But I didn't really think about it until I opened it up and it was super busy. All right, here we go. Martial artist. Yep, so you're trained in martial arts. It's not mysticism. It's not enlightenment. Yours is the way of striking fist. Okay, so it's a dedication. You train to use your fists as deadly weapons. So this is what you get for the dedication to level 2. No stat requirements. Your damage die becomes D6 instead of D4, and you don't get the -2 penalty for making lethal attacks. And whenever you gain a class feature that gives you expert or greater proficiency in certain weapons, you also gain that proficiency rank in all unarmed attacks. Okay. I mean, this is basically giving you sort of the monk deadly fist ability, which I think is definitely, I think we'd all agree is the bare minimum. Lets you punch effectively. You don't get the -2. You get to auto upgrade your proficiency as you level up. I don't know that we would want anything else from this dedication. That seems pretty good. How big is this dedication? Ooh, it's a lengthy one. Okay. Powder. Oh, so this is a specific to Outlaws of Alkenstar adventure path. So I'm going to skip this one. It's powder punch stance. It's kind of silly. Something about wrapping your hands in gunpowder, but I won't hold that against it. All right. At level 4, we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 feats to choose from at level 4. So this is a very front-loaded class. You're getting a lot of options earlier on. At level 4, you get Brawling Focus. You get the critical specialization effects of unarmed strikes in Brawling Group. So you are getting that earlier than most people are getting their crit spec effects. Most people don't get crit spec until 5. So that's pretty sweet. So pick up crit spec. It's not bad. Then we have a stance feat, just like the monk stance feats. So we got this from the monk here, this from the monk here. You get the crane stance. This is the one that gives you bonus to AC, and you do agile weapons. You can leap much. We get the dragon stance, also from the monk. We get the gorilla stance, also from the monk. We get the mountain stance, also from the monk. This is sort of the low maneuverability, heavily armored, even though you're not really heavily armored, monk. We get the stumbling stance. This is from the APG, yeah. So we've got, and we get the tiger stance, also from the core rulebook. So it looks like, oh, and the wolf stance, which is the one I'm most familiar with. I feel like a lot of the monks in our game have always taken the wolf stance. I think it's because when we originally played, we thought that this would let you make finesse trip attacks. I know they didn't errata it. They more like clarified an FAQ that was not the case. But originally, we thought this lets you make finesse trip attacks, which we thought was really sweet. But they errata that. So level 4 is pretty much all stances, and you also get the access to the critical specialization. So a lot of choices there. Stances are definitely diminishing returns thing, because you can only use one stance at a time. So it doesn't really make sense for you to have like more than maybe 2 stances. And they kind of pigeonhole you down into a certain type of build. This is really more talking about monks than martial artists, but I mean, there's a lot of monk stuff. All the non-magical monk stuff is here. And then at level 6, we get the follow-up strike, which is a flourish. And your last action was a missed strike with a melee unarmed attack. So you're trained to use all parts of your body. You can continue making attack, flavor text. Make another strike with a melee unarmed attack using the same multiple attack penalty for the missed strike, if any. Well, this is great. So you lead off with your map 0. And then if you miss, you can follow up with a map 0. That's pretty good. I mean, your multiple attack penalty 0 strike is your best strike anyways, best chance to crit. So pretty good stuff here. This is another one from the Alkenstar Outlaws. I'm going to skip that one. So then at level 8, we get, yeah, GM Scott. GM Scott says that's better than the fighter feat. Yeah, that's pretty dang good. Please, by all means, please do it. So then we get a bunch of, it looks like a bunch of follow-ups to our stances. We get the Crane Flutter reaction, which if you're in the Crane stance and you're targeted by a melee attacker that you can see, you can gate +3. This is the same thing as the Monk. And if you miss, I'm sorry, you get a +3 bonus to the AC, which is pretty dang good. And then if they miss, you can make an immediate attack at -2 penalty. You get the Dragon Roar, which is a frighten AoE. So it's getting a little bit magical. We get the Gorilla Pound. We get the Grievous Blow. So these are 3 things that follow up from, and again, there's feats for these, so there's probably a good reason to go Crane, Dragon, or Gorilla, since we have access to this. Interestingly, 2 of these are intimidations. Gorilla and Dragon. Grievous Blow is a double attack, double action attack, flourish. So you can't use this with your other re-up. I just got here. Did Derek already trash talk Powder Punch stance? I did, actually. I actually 100% just did. Make an unarmed melee strike. This counts as 2 attacks. If a strike hits, you deal 2 extra weapon damage dice. So that is coming in 2 levels earlier than the 2 weapon extra damage dice you get from power attack. Power attack doesn't scale to 2 extra weapon bonus damage dice until level 10. You also ignore resistance to physical damage equal to your level. Well, that is dang good. Now, obviously, you want to be power attacking usually with like a D10 or D12 weapon, but I can't hate on this. Mountain Stronghold is a follow-up to the Mountain Stance. Okay, so we got more follow-ups to the stances than just those first 3. Again, all coming from the Monk. This is a follow-up to the Stumbling Stance, again from the Monk. And this is the follow-up from the Tiger Stance, again from the Monk. And here's the Wolf Drag. Great feat, by the way. Wolf Jaw attack with D12 Fatal. And if you hit it all, they're prone. So just a great all-around feat. Not only a good chance for an incredible critical hit from a Monk, but also a hit it all means they're prone. Great option if you have access to anything that's going to buff your attack bonus, like an aid action from an ally, or a true strike, or a true target. Here's another silly punks in a powder keg. Black powder flash. We're going to skip that one. All right, so now we're into the 14th higher levels here. We've got 2 more left. So this one, again, is specific to the archetype. Once a minute. So I'm going to read this as once a fight. 3 actions. So it's taking up your whole turn, short of being hasted. I should say quickened. With a burst of speed, you weave a path through your enemies, striking each in turn. You stride. This movement does not trigger reactions. And you can strike up to 3 times at any point through your movement, as long as each is against your different enemy. Each attack counts towards your multiple attack penalty, but your multiple attack penalty does not increase until you've made all of your attacks. So we're talking about getting, obviously you need to have 3 enemies to strike, or this doesn't do anything. I mean, it does, but you're not getting the value out of it. So you're getting 4 actions worth of actions here. But because of diminishing returns on attacks, the second strike to me is like worth, I don't know, probably like half a strike. And the third strike with full map attack is, probably only worth like a 1/10 of a strike to me. But you don't get any multiple attack penalties on all 3 of these attacks. So you are getting 4 actions, and that's incredible. Path of Iron doesn't say you need to use unarmed strikes. No, it does not. It definitely does not. I'm sure it's intended to be that way, but it definitely does not say that. So this is one of the best feats I've ever seen. Nin did the map. -5 is 40%. Okay. And -10 is 15%. Okay. I wasn't off. I wasn't that far off. Okay. So, but thank you for doing the math there. Now, Nin, keep in mind, a monk, most of the time, assuming they're using an agile weapon, they're going to be -4, -8. So it's a little less, but we're in the right ballpark. But thank you for that. Great. Mountain Quake. So this is a monk feat as well. For some odd reason, we get this at the highest level, but this is an AoE prone. And then they're not immune to it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. They're just immune to it for 1d4 rounds. So you could easily use this maybe twice a fight, maybe 3 times. Now, obviously, it's you and all your allies. You're 16th level. A lot of people are going to be, you know, have the ability to fly and all that other stuff. But, I mean, this is some high-level, cool stuff with a very significant, meaningful impact. Obviously, they're taking damage equal to your strength modifier, which is totally pointless and useless. It'd be cooler if it was a little bit more damage, but I'm not going to hate on an AoE emanation trip. So, yeah. Now, that's true. They don't become immune at all. You could just cycle it if you have 2 emanate. Now, so this has been said before, and I will point it out here. When you take the martial artist dedication, you get basically Deadly Fist, which is what the monk gets. And your unarmed proficiency will scale at the highest rank of your proficiency. This means if you are a fighter and if you take martial arts dedication at level 2, your unarmed attack proficiency will be expert, which will be higher than the monk in your party. At level 5, you will be a master. And at level 13, when your monk finally becomes a master in unarmed strikes, your fighter will be a legendary unarmed striker. So between this, getting the Deadly Fists, getting access to these feats, these stances, not to mention the ability to potentially archetype also into monk to pick up some of the other features. Now, obviously, while you're not going to get access to like the incredible saves that the monk has, the bonus to speed that the monk has, in terms of sheer unarmed combatant, a fighter who went martial artist is pretty much going to be better than a monk on strictly on the attack bonus martial artist standpoint. And I should point out that here at Knights of the Last Call, we do believe in math, and math kind of dictates that guidance. But this is very strong. I love how so many class fantasies just boil down to just play a fighter, sorcerer, plus an archetype. Yeah, I mean, here's why. Because so much in Pathfinder 2 depends on your chassis. And your chassis is like the one thing that can't change. It is the underlying backbone of what your character is built around. And so much of the game's mechanics rely on number versus number. And having a higher number, better number, is almost always going to be universally, mechanically more effective. So that's kind of where it comes up. This is great. This makes me feel like a martial artist. It makes me feel cool. I feel like I've got a lot of options to choose from. It's flavorful, mechanical, fun, with some really, really neat. This follow-up strike is a fantastic archetype class feat. Definitely picking that up at 6 with pretty much every character ever. And this, you get a variety of different stance options to build differently. And then this Path of Iron at 14 is not even, I like this because this is a very powerful ability, but you're not getting it at 18 or 20 when you're never going to get a chance to play with it. You get it at 14, and that is a great level to get this at. And I mean, this class to me is an all-around, all-star, solid, mechanical A. I think this is a real winner, and I like it. I would be very happy to play this mechanically and flavorly, flavor wise. Yeah, Flick Mace, Path of Iron meta. Let's go. Yeah, that would be very effective. Some of the stances allow armor, so a fighter can even have better AC too. Be a monk, take martial arts as your archetype, take all the stances and key powers, profit. I don't think that's profiting very much. Again, like I said, just don't take too many stances because they don't overlap. Sure. Yeah. Path of Iron alone is probably worth a dip. I don't like the idea. I mean, again, I'm not a build guy. I don't like the idea of treating my character's build as, or my character as like I don't know, like I'm a race car. I don't know. That's always a little strange to me. So I'm not a big fan of that. It's just the way I play the game personally. But I understand that is for some people. All right, Mauler is next up. This is one that Mr. Bob himself was. Azius. Gosh, I can't remember Azius's last name. Strongforge? Picked up Mauler in his later years as a barbarian. His later levels, I should say. All right. So this is one of those archetypes, though, sadly, that doesn't really do anything for you. Kind of losing this one. So in order to take Mauler dedication, you become trained in all simple and martial weapons that require two hands to wield or have the two-handed trait. And when you gain a class feature that grants you expert or greater proficiency in such weapons, you gain proficiencies in these weapons. And if you are an expert, you get critical specialization effect. The fact is, though, is that like 90% of, maybe 95% of the characters that would take the Mauler dedication literally already have all of this. They already are trained. They will become an expert at 5. They will get critical specialization in it at 5. So this dedication does almost nothing. This dedication helps out the wizard who decides to become a Mauler because it's going to give them training in these big two-handed weapons that they otherwise wouldn't get. The problem is, and this is something that we have discussed many times on this stream, is that these things don't progress. They follow your core chassis line of progression. So even though I am a wizard who has gone full Mauler dedication, my wizard chassis will never get better than expert proficiency in weapons, and at like level 12 at that. So that means that I will never be better than expert with my two-handed weapon, despite what all of this text is saying. So these dedications are basically only for fighters and barbarians, or maybe, two-handed rangers or something, who already have proficiency in all these weapons. So, because it's not even give you advanced or something like that. It's just simple and martial. So let's see here. Nin says, yes, Mauler, the archetype every barbarian thinks of and then realizes it's not great on barbarians. So Mauler dedication is meh, because you're not really going to get a lot of use out of it. So what do we pick up for it? Well, we get access to knockdown, which I think is only a fighter feat, which is 2 actions that basically lets you hit and make a trip attack with your two-handed weapon. And what's nice about this is your map does not increase until after the attack. So you get to basically, normally you would have to make an attack and then trip at a -5, or trip and then make an attack at -5. And of course, obviously, unless your weapon has the trip trait, if you're wielding a two-handed weapon, you can't trip. So this kind of lets you get around 2 game hurdles. It lets you get around the problem of needing the trip trait, and it also lets you get around the problem of getting a multiple attack penalty. So, again, I think this is a fighter feat only. So if you're a barbarian or a ranger and you really want to pick up this halfway decent feat, I guess you could. Power attack. I mean, this is obviously a go-to for people who are wielding big D12 weapons. It's arguably most, if not only, useful in people who are wielding big D10 and D12 weapons. And even then, I encourage you, if you're going to power attack, make sure that you have stacked every bonus you can, that you have every buff available to you, including an aid from a fellow PC, and if possible, get yourself some True Strike, or at least have a hero point standing by to reroll, because that is what makes this whole investment in actions worth it, and worth it big time if it pays off. So, but look, Mauler should have this, right? I mean, that makes sense. So you get 2 options at level 4. We pick up an additional action at option level 6, which is Clear the Way. 2 actions, unique to the archetype. You have to, of course, you have to be wielding a weapon in 2 hands. You put your body behind the swing. You attempt to shove up to 5 adjacent creatures, 5 creatures adjacent to you. Roll a separate athletics check for each. That's a lot of dice rolls. Then stride up to half your speed. This movement doesn't trigger reactions from any of the creatures you successfully shoved. I will say this is fine. I don't think it's particularly powerful. I don't think it's going to come up a lot, but you know, this is, I think, a very mechanically flavorful way to do the thing that we're imagining. You've got the barbarian, the fighter with the big 2-handed weapon, and he's swarmed by a bunch of goblins or orcs, and he's, you know, being pinned in and for some odd reason can't leave or something. And he just, you know, swings his weapon, pushes like 3 or 4 or 5 of them out of the way, moves, avoids attacks of opportunity or any sort of other reactions triggered. You know, and you're spending 2 actions on it, but in theory, you're making 6 actions. Shove isn't the most powerful thing in the game, but I would love to see Shove knock people prone on a crit. I think that would make Shove a lot better. I mean, crits are pretty rare, you know, anyways, and they should feel special. If Shove pushed someone back and tripped and knocked them prone, that'd be sweet. All right. Anyways, I bet you see a lot more people shoving. Let's see. Mike likes this on a Vanguard Gunslinger. A 2-handed firearm with a reinforced stock. I mean, I guess if that counts as a 2-handed weapon. I don't know that I think of people beating people with guns as being much of a mauler, but let me see here. Yes, massive weapon, legions of foes. Beating them in the face with a gun handle. Whatever floats your boat. Shoving Sweep is a reaction and unique to the archetype. Yes, Gun Kata, Gun Fu from Equilibrium. It did work for Doom Guy. I'm not saying getting hit in the face with a shotgun doesn't hurt. I'm just saying it's not like that's an ideal weapon. People make it seem like that is a not just an okay weapon. It's like a preferred weapon. Like it somehow is better because you know it's like no, it's a simple little mace would be better than a gun stock. Disarm would be great if it did anything. Disarm is totally fixable. All you have to do is create a new condition called disrupted, and because we have two ways to go after a character's attack. I'm sorry, we have one way to go after a character's attack by tripping them. When you trip a character, they get a -2 penalty to attacks, but they also are flat-footed, which is essentially a -2 penalty to their AC, and they're also on the ground, and so they have to spend an action to get back up. So when you trip someone, you are penalizing their attack bonus, you are penalizing their armor class, and you are also potentially eating up an action, which, by the way, could also provoke an attack of opportunity. And that's why it's so good, because you're hitting 2 things, attack and defense, and you're causing them to waste an action in order to clear, if you will, the status. Let's look at grapple. Now, grapple gives you flat-footed. It does not give you the penalty to attack other people, but it does essentially immobilize you. And if you want to escape the grapple, guess what? You have to spend an action. But unlike attack a trip or prone, you have to make a check. So we can see how it competes in that space. But what we don't have is an option to disrupt someone's attack only, but not their defense. And so that is why I would replace disarm, and I would replace it with an action called disrupt. And it would be an athletics check versus their reflex. And if you succeed, the character would receive a -2 penalty to attacks until they spent an action in order to, you know, I guess you would say, fix themselves, right? Get, reoriented. And then there you go. And then if they do critically hit, if they are wielding a weapon, you can knock it out of their hands. And that's it. But I think having an option to disrupt an opponent and make it harder for them to attack is kind of nice, because then that it plays within that space of eating up an action, right? Trip is still going to be kind of the king because it gives them a penalty to attack and to defense, and they have to spend an action to cure it. But at least it puts it on par with grapple, because it's going to be penalizing their attack, and it's going to require an action for them to fix this disruption. So I like that. Anyways, that's how I would fix it. Shoving sweep. A creature with a reaction. A creature within your reach leaves a square during a move action it's using, and you can shove them. Well, okay, this is bad because they're trying to... I guess this is useful if you have reach, but you're using an action and then they lose 5 feet of movement and they get to continue their movement after the shove. Now, this one falls flat for me. Improved knockdown is even better than knockdown, because instead of making a strike followed by a trip, you attempt a single strike. If you do and your strike hits, instead of making a trip attack, you automatically apply the critical success of trip. And if it's a two-handed weapon, you can add the weapon's damage die size instead of the regular damage size from a trip. So this becomes automatic trip if you hit. And that's pretty good. So that's pretty good. But again, this is a fighter feat. So brutal finish. Also from the fighter, has the press trait, which is always a little sad because it means you have to be suffering from a multiple attack penalty in order to use this. So you're going to be lower accuracy for this. And your turn ends after it. So if you have an extra action after this, you're losing that action. So then it's kind of like, this is the I attack at map -10's person's dreams. If people are always attacking at map -10, you tell them to pick up brutal finish. It's okay. I mean, it's not a great feat. And then hammer quake, and unbalancing sweep, and avalanche strike. We end that with a bunch of 3 action. Flourish opens. I don't need to tell you that anything that takes 3 actions in your whole turn is asking a lot. So we'll just start with that. You smash the ground, choose a square within your reach, including your own space. If there's a foe in that square, strike. So we were doing 3 actions for strike. Then attempt to trip every foe in the chosen square, plus each square adjacent to that square. Contrast this to the monk who could trip in a 20-foot emanation. I mean, I guess you're getting to make a strike too, but this is only that square and each square adjacent to that square. So, I mean, at best, you're striking and maybe you're tripping 2 people. Maybe, like, then you're getting just your 3 actions with. Obviously, your penalty doesn't increase until after you've made the strike and a trip attempt, so you get a little bit of refund back. But I would just want this to be a little bit bigger and better and badder ass. I don't know. Feels like that could be better. Unbalancing sweep. It's so funny how they're just obsessed with like tripping and shoving people with hammers. But that's kind of not what I imagine a hammer really doing. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. I think hammers just crush people. I don't know. I don't think of it as like a particularly shoving weapon. I guess like people want it to be like a battering ram, but that's kind of not how physics works, I don't think. But maybe I'm wrong. So this is also already a barbarian feat. You choose 3 adjacent foes and you can shove and trip them. And it's a separate athletics check. And it's basically the same thing as this, but without the strike. So, And then avalanche strike. You attack all nearby adversaries. Make a melee strike with the required weapon against each enemy within your melee reach. It does not attack. Isn't this just whirlwind strike? Am I crazy? I think this is just whirlwind strike. But it's got a cool name, I guess. Which itself is not the best. Not crazy. They are identical. Thank you, Roxley. Okay. So what do we think about the Mauler? I mean, I think there's some, I mean, again, this dedication feat's really not honestly doing anything. We get access to a couple of fighter feats that might be useful into another shell that isn't a fighter. Or if you have free archetype, you might be picking up a couple other things. Some of the archetype specific ones, like Clear the Way, are fairly meh. Shoving Sweep is fairly meh. And that's it. So I'd see what the chat thinks. We're gonna go with the Mauler. And it's obviously not S. But... All right, poll is up. Let me know. I have my vote, but I'll wait to see what you all think. Hopefully everybody is doing well tonight. This has been the longest week in the history of long weeks because we did a stream Sunday and I thought that was Tuesday. So this whole week, since like Tuesday, I thought was Thursday. So today's Thursday. I think it's like Saturday, and we're still going, you know? All right, well, C's off to an early lead, and that is exactly where I think it belongs. The Mauler is a C. It's got a couple interesting feats. I could definitely see a couple of classes maybe being interested in it, adding some depth to your stuff, but for the most part, I think this is basically an opportunity for the Barbarian to pick up some fighter feats without having to go through, like, you know, having to wait for half your level in order to pick up the Barbarian feat or the fighter feat. Does that make sense? So I think C is absolutely right. And we got a couple people at D and B, and I think that the vast majority is at C. Someone crazy said A. Okay, well, probably the single most taken dedication archetype in the game, I'm going to assume. It's the medic. At this point, we probably all just know what it does, right? I mean, I think every single person in the game probably has someone in their party right now with the medic archetype. Listen, it is what it is. I mean, it makes you an expert in battle medicine. They get extra hit points on the recovery. You get this treat condition ability, which lets you eventually be a cleric, probably honestly kind of better than the cleric. At healing, you get to treat these conditions early. You can add frightened, stupefied, and stunned that you can treat out with your treat condition, which is like, there's no other, I don't think there's a magical way to get rid of that stuff in the game. So it's pretty crazy. You even get the ability to, at level 16, admittedly a couple levels later after the cleric did, but you can even bring people back from the dead, all without magic. I mean, it's not a long archetype at all, but I mean, I think everybody pretty much ends up picking this up. You get the free, I mean, this is probably one of the best dedication feats we've seen. I mean, you get the upgrade to expert. You get a significant boost to the power of your two main treat wounds, or your two main medicine uses, battle medicine and treat wounds. And once a day, you can use battle medicine again on somebody. And if you're a master of medicine, which happens at level 7, suddenly you're using battle medicine once an hour, which for a lot of campaigns is, once a fight. So suddenly you're using it on multiple people in your campaign. Like, you basically become a full active healer. I mean, I think it's incredible. I mean, the question here is, I see the S tiers. Is it too good? Is it too good? Right? So S tier means this thing is so powerful and busted, it's probably too good. I think that's the only question. I put B on there because I understand some people are haters, but to me, I don't know if it necessarily is too good. Boothby is using stats, and he's going straight to my heart, and he's saying the fact that so many people take it pretty much means it has to be S. And Boothby, I don't disagree with that. If a choice is crowding out all other choices, does that mean that it's problematic? And yeah, I kind of think it might be. JG says S, easy S and pass. Kragan S, Ayla S, medic, Minandreas S. GM Scott says minimum S. Boothby says I have a party with 2 medics. Well, at least your party's doing something right, Boothby. Dedication alone makes it S. Mike T, S. There we go. 2 of my 6 players have medic archetype. Kragan says it's not only good enough to replace cleric, it's even better than cleric with cleric feats. I mean, it's better on the cleric with cleric feats. Yeah, I mean, you're really laying something down when you go cleric, which for the most part is a heal bot. And then you go medic anyways. Anthony's saying it should be S plus. I think it is. There's just too much in the dedication. If it didn't do the bonus, a healing in the master once per hour thing, I think it'd be reasonable. Yeah, it's crazy. White Liger says, I feel like it isn't necessarily true. I think it could be more than other options for healing are a bit underwhelming. I mean, that's true, but overall, we're seeing a really, really high percentage of you who are going here S. GM Scott, yeah, the cloistered cleric in my party is also a medic, and that is pretty insane. Yeah, that is a lot of healing. Yeah, I mean, Frostjack, I mean, medic is one of those things where it's like, in a game that we sometimes have, we struggle with the game not performing the way we want it to. I do hate to, say this, but, it is S. It's definitely S tier. It's incredibly powerful. It's very good at what it does. Yeah, I mean, this dedication feat reads like something. This reads like a level 14 feat from the cleric's class list. I'm not even kidding. Consider the cleric gets the one. The cleric gets that one ability that adds it's like 1 hit point per level of the heal spell. So like a level 5 heal spell. That mean not like your character level 5, spell level 5. So you're level 9. And it adds 5 HP. Like, this does this at level 2. Like, what are we even talking about here? What are we doing? It's pretty crazy. So this is great. So again, I think this is very strong. This is one of those situations where I'm not trying to say that they should nerf it, but it would be nice if maybe the floor would get brought up.
Kragan tipped $5.
Thank you, Kragan.
Medic is a shadow class, so that no one would feel obliged to play cleric to be a healer. So now instead of cleric, you just won't have a party without a medic. It's less feels bad than being forced to play a specific class.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, actually. 100% agree with that. This was very much a shadow class. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Cork, like godless healing. Because they wanted, they wanted to be able to say, look, you don't even have to have a cleric. You don't need a cleric at all. You could be a medic and do everything that So I think they were really trying to lean into that. And yeah, so good stuff. Definitely agree with you on that tip. And thank you so much for that tip. But you are 100% correct that it is kind of like a shadow class and a way for them to really lean into the whole, you don't need a cleric. You don't need a dedicated divine caster to be able to heal in this game. And they are right about that. The medic, I mean, treat wounds does okay. If someone's really specializing down that skill feat chain. But the medic takes it to a whole other level. And I think we've all seen that. And yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. All right. This one's from Dark Archives. And then we've got Mummy. So I don't know anything. What is a shadow class? That sounds evil. Fake. What he means? I'm gonna speak for him here, or them, I should say. I don't know what their gender is. They mean like it's kind of like a hidden class, right? Like it's not like evil or something like that. It's just it's like an unofficial class without them actually coming out and saying, "Hey, we have a new class. It's called the medic." Instead, they're just like, oh, we'll just kind of throw this class into an archetype and then anybody can pick it up. Oh yeah, rogues are like sometimes some of the best healers now because they get quick access to all the feats anyways. Even if you're not going medic, they can pick up battle medicine and they can pick up continual recovery and ward medic and expert all by level, I think 2 or 3 or something like that. Maybe 2. And so everybody else has to wait until 4 or 6. It's wild, right? So rogues are oftentimes very early on the healers in the party. Yeah, rogues don't usually have a bad wisdom. So Mindsmith is just the soul knife, and I didn't like the soul knife. So all right, here we go. Mindsmith from Dark Archive. The mind makes it real. Though uttered in many parts of Golarion, nowhere is this more literal than perhaps among mindsmiths, those with a mysterious mental talent that allows them to manifest their mind into a physical object. Some gain this power through magical training from an ancestor or mentor, while others earn it as a gift or reward for some greater beating, or by total fucking random chance. Whatever the source, you have mastered the ability to form a mental image into a corporeal figment solid enough to affect the physical world. You trained the power to aid you in battle by shaping itself. Of course, I love it. It's like, there's 2 things I love about this. Number 1, I love the idea that it's like you meet a mindset. They're like, I have been, since I was born, I attended a monastery and I have focused my mental energy. I have trained with my ancestor spirits and mentors for many millennia in order to master this talent of making the mind made real. And then someone else is like, oh, I was just walking around the Golarion. I was out in the woods and I just tripped and I fell and I landed on a strange rock and then I got the same ability. You're like, I hate you so much. Oh, well, that's great. And then I love that I have the ability now to, it's just, this is like, if you needed further proof that Pathfinder 2 is a game about fighting, it's like you have mastered the ability to form a mental image into a figment to affect the real world, right? Like I can make my mind's will physical. So of course you've trained this power to aid you in battle by shaping it into a weapon. It's like, of all the things I could have done with it, yeah, you made a weapon out of it. You know that. like of course you did. All right. Really? That's what we went with? Okay. Mindsmith dedication. We don't need anything in order to take this. All right, we gain a melee weapon called a mind weapon. It is martial melee weapon, which means if we are a wizard, we may not be able to be proficient with it. Oh, there's a lot of stuff here. Okay. Maybe we gain proficiency with it. We can make a dagger. We can make a short sword. We can make a regular sword, or we can make a polearm. So those are our options. Yeah, you're a really shitty Green Lantern. That's a great way of putting it. Each day you can decide if you want it to be bludgeoning and club. Ooh, would have missed there, huh? Should have gone flail. Should have gone. You can manifest your mind into anything that your mind can imagine. Can I make it a hammer? Nope, gotta be a club. Damn it. Damn it. I wanted flail. I think really hard about flick maces. Can't help you, buddy. All right. It could be a piercing weapon spear or a slashing weapon sword. It has no hardness. And oh, I'm like, oh, this is great. Your mind, your weapon is an extension of your mind. It has no hardness. I'm like, okay, that's sweet. Any ability that damages your weapon just damages you instead. Come on. Does the Mindsmith hopefully doesn't get a shield? My shield takes the damage. I subtract 10 hardness. I subtract no hardness because it has no hardness. Great. The shield takes the damage and you take the damage, so you take double damage. Damn it. Shouldn't have thought about a shield. Oh, we can project our mind weapon. I mean, this is forming from the very speed of thought. Oh, it uses an interact action, and we draw it just as we draw any other weapon. But only we can carry it or hold it or wield it. So if our ally needs a weapon or we needed to do something, that won't work because it quickly disappears from our hand. Okay. And of course, this weapon would suck because from our mind, if it wasn't able to be magical. So upon creating our mind weapon, we learn to use a mindsmith keepsake, an object such as a bracelet or figurine that we have to keep in ourselves, and that's what we can describe with runes. It can't have any significant monetary value. You can buy fundamental runes and weapon property runes in the same way as a regular weapon, and you can move runes back and forth. If your keepsake is ever lost or destroyed, you can spend 1 week of downtime imprinting a new object with your weapon's mental properties, though it will not have any of the runes prior keepsake. Nin and Coral, or Coral, you can spend a feat to save 2 silver pieces. What a deal. Yes. Like, I get that this is all flavorful and cool. This does nothing. Like, at least let me, even this last, you know what? Of all the things in this sentence here, or in all the things in this paragraph, the thing that bothers me the most is this last one about the runes. It's a mind weapon. And now I got to carry around a fucking key charm in order to have it be effective in the game that we're playing. Let me, I don't know, put the runes into my mind or something. Let me stare at the rune stone and embrace the power and etch the essence of the striking rune or the flaming rune or the whatever rune into my mind. Let it be force damage. Let it do something materially different. Like, what? This is horrible. In many ways, this is worse than a normal weapon. Because a normal weapon, I've got my weapon and it's got all its runes on it. Now I have to have my mind blade and I have to have my key fob. Like, why? What is this? Like, it's a Green Lantern ring, except it makes bad weapons for you. Yeah, Captain, I like that. Build a weapon, right? You know, make it something. I just don't get why. I mean, not only does this not do anything, it just fundamentally just doesn't feel different. And if we were sitting at a table and I was sitting next to somebody and they just had a short sword or a long sword, nobody would be able to tell any sort of difference. And I'm sorry, mechanics matter, you know? What gets repeated, what gets rewarded gets repeated, and what gets mechanics matters. I'm sorry. Anyways, this is just disappointing. Is it cool? Absolutely. Of course it's cool. But is it, compelling in any sort of mechanical way? No. You do all this, including giving up a feat, just to be as good, if not a little worse, maybe, than other people. Yeah. It's like from your mind, says Ayla. Isn't that cool? Otherwise, it's just a normal weapon, but it's from your mind. Yeah, what a joke. All right. I think this might be the most disappointing archetype in the game. Coral says, Coral, tell me in chat, is it Coral or is it Corel? Like Jor-El, or is it Cor-El, or is it Coral? Also, I feel like they could have made it much shorter if they just said you can make any weapon. Also true. All right, Cor-El. Okay, like Jor-El. Got it. Okay, Cor-El. And also, my favorite part about this is it doesn't give you any proficiency. Yeah, exactly, Frostjack. You're like, mental blade. I'm fumbling with it. I don't even know how to use it. All right. Well, maybe we get some really cool things out of this. What do we got? We got feats all over the place here. We've got malleable movement as a free action. It's a skill feat. Well, we're triggering leap. Okay. That's the basic jump 5 feet, by the way, for people who, but technically 10 feet. You're jumping a 5-foot gap. You shift the shape of your weapon to help you leap faster. It shifts into a pole, a climbing hook, and you add 5 feet. Also, you still have to be an expert in athletics somehow to do this. Jim Scott. Why do you need to do this? And we do love free actions, Captain Yankee, most of the time. That is true. That's not good. This is just powerful leap. It's totally true. Which is a feat you can get without the archetype. It's totally true. All right, Ghost Blade. Once an hour. Incorporeal creatures. Ghost touch for a minute. 1 action. Okay. Something. Not bad. That's fine. At least you can use it once an hour. I mean, look, you tell me, chat. There's like 50 of you here. Maybe I'm a horrible game designer, and I probably am. But I would just have this say, like, your weapon is ghost touch. You've touched the other realm. Your blade is able to pierce flesh and spirit, and your mind blade is just ghost touch. I don't even know if that, to me, is even that compelling of a feat, but that's what mine would read. And maybe I'm silly, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm making a broken, busted ass game, but that's what mine would say if I had this ghost blood. It wouldn't have an action. It would just say your weapon is ghost touch. All right, just the tool. Just the tool. You temporarily change your weapon to assist you in the field, such as a crowbar or a shovel. You can't replicate entire toolkits with this ability. You can use this action to go back to a weapon. Okay, so we're 4th level. We can finally turn this thing into a crowbar, but only for mundane tasks, and it can't even be a toolkit, and it's our mental blade. And okay, I mean, I'm glad at least we could finally do this here. Mental Forge. All right, here we go. Okay. Choose 2 of the following weapon traits to give your weapon. Grapple, modular, non-lethal, shove, or trip. Once these are chosen, they cannot be changed unless you spend a week. I mean, those fine. I mean, I don't think these are great options. Shove, non-lethal, trip, grapple is probably the strongest option here, I would say. I think we can all agree to that. But at least it feels customizable. It feels like something. If you go with polearm, you've got D10, reach, and you've got grapple. But the thing is, it's like, you could just have, there's a couple grapple reach weapons in the game, but I guess you could also manifest it from your mind. All right, mind shards. Yeah, we're just trying to fill pages at this point, Rick. I mean, that is something we ask ourselves a lot. 2 actions. You swing with a swing and a thought. You detonate your mind weapon into a burst of psychic shards that shred the mind. You concentrate. It does have the concentrate trait, and unleash a 15-foot cone that deals 3d6 mental damage to all creatures in the area with a basic will save against the higher of your class or spell DC. Nice. After the attack, your mind weapon automatically reforms. You can't use this ability again for 1 minute. This damage increases by 1d6 at level 7 and every 2 levels thereafter. So it is doing 4d6 at 7. 2 actions every minute in a 15-foot cone. I don't like that the cone is only ever 15 feet. but this is like bare minimum power level of acceptability. Like, it is not embarrassing, but it is pretty dang close. I mean, a second level Burning Hands does more damage than this. So it's going to scale slightly behind Burning Hands. Heightened Burning Hands. But you can do it basically for free once a fight. And it's mental damage, which, I mean, could be a blessing or a curse, but yeah. I mean, at least it's something interesting, giving you something different. All right, malleable mental forge. During your daily preparation, you can choose any 2 weapon traits from the mental forge feat to place in your. So now we can be like, oh, we don't need grapple today. We need shove. I don't think anybody would ever take this feat. So now you can do it every day instead of every week. It just seems very strange. I think they're putting too much. Maybe they're putting too much value in the idea that I can change my weapon all the time. And I don't know that people are really going to do that, or that has a lot of value. Mind projectiles. You have learned to stretch your mind's influence further, releasing projectiles with a swing of your mind weapon. I like that. You can make ranged mind weapon strikes. These are ranged strikes with a maximum range of 30 feet. So it's basically a cantrip that deal 1d6 damage, but it's not 2 actions. That deal 1d6 damage of the same type as your mind weapon. At level 8. 1d6 damage. Oh, it does gain our runes. Okay. So it'd be 2d6. Okay. So our weapon becomes a melee weapon and a 30-foot range weapon. That has some utility. I don't hate that. And it's cool. The mental image of it is very cool. Yeah, I mean, this is a classic problem in a lot of games, Ayla. It's not just Pathfinder 2. I don't want to make it seem like this is just a Pathfinder 2 problem, but there are a lot of things where you go, oh, wow, I could invest some very significant class resources like feats or whatever. And there's usually some magical item that just does it. I agree with Mr. Williams here that the game designers, I do believe, overvalue versatility, and I think they overvalue it in the incorrect way. Isn't malleable mental forge a way to make a custom weapon? No, because Roxley, it still has to be from the list of this here. It has to be from grapple, modular, non-lethal, shove, or trip. It just lets you do it each day instead of every week. That's all. So I don't hate mind projectiles. I mean, this class is runic mind smithing. All right, here we go. We can get 1 rune. But the rune counts towards our maximum limit of runes. So this is a great example. Why would I ever take this? Maybe I take it at level 10, maybe. Just so I can get a free rune, but then I would train it out, right? Because feats are something that are so limited. I'm going to have cash coming out of the demon hole by later part in the game. I'm not going to... If this let me get to a 4th rune, that would be sweet. But it doesn't. It doesn't. So this is... this is Ayla's postulate in exact effect here. You're reading it, you're like, yeah, oh, that's cool, awesome, great. Oh yeah, it's for each day. I could choose a new rune each day. Okay, that's pretty cool, but it still counts towards our maximum runes. That's the part I don't like. This is fine. I don't think this is, by the way, I don't think that this is a bad feat. I think this is a totally serviceable, check the box, get your minimum raise, performance evaluation time type feat. It just doesn't excite me. Metallic envisionment. You can always account for every weakness, allowing your mind. Choose between cold iron or silver. All your mind weapon strikes are treated as that chosen type of metal. Again, it's not something you can change. So I could just get a cold iron weapon, or I could just get a silver weapon, and this would do the same thing. I'm paying all these class feats to just what? Look cool? In a game that values math and balance as much as Pathfinder 2 does, I need a little bit more than just looking cool. All right, and advanced rune smithing lets us now add anarchic, holy, unholy. But again, it counts towards the maximum list. And then once per day, we can spend 10 minutes of uninterrupted focus to swap our daily prepared rune. So we can change it in 10 minutes. Again, that's a reasonable amount of... Doing it in the middle of an adventuring day is a little bit more versatile. But honestly, like, it's still... Again, I don't think this is a horrible feat. I just don't think it's particularly exciting. So here's the problem I have with this class. Is this class a flavor class? No, I don't think it is. I really do think that this class is a mechanics class. So this is going to be mechanics. Well, you know what? Is this a mechanical class, or is it a flavor class? Because I mean, I'm interested about that, because to me, this, even though we're talking about the flavor of it, I mean, I think this class is existing to fill a mechanical role, right? Which is the idea of it being like the mind blade. It's not trying to, right? It's not trying to like build out some sort of country or some sort of organization like the Hell Knights or the Bellflower Tillers or whatever like that, right? It's a mechanical thing. I think we can agree with that. So I'll let it run for a few seconds. Okay. So overall, most people agree that it is mechanical. So now I'm going to end this poll. And now I am going to say, so this is a mechanics rating. My knife. What is it? Is it I don't think it's an F. I'm not even going to give that as an option. Again, I felt like some of these class feats and features barely scraped the bottom of the barrel, though. So, is it not possible to just rank on both? Some things are both mechanics and flavor. We have done that in the past, Min Andreas, for something, in that respect. We could do that here. Nin thinks it sucks flavor wise too. Jaroma says K for knife. If this uses feats to replace things you can buy with gold but look cool doing it, it's flavor. Yeah, but traditionally flavor has been more like yeah, I mean, you might be right, Mike, actually. You're trying to deliver on a ideal rather than a mechanic in the game. All right. Well, it's very clear that everybody thinks that this is a D, and I tend to agree. But I think this one's going to be a lot more contentious. Okay. Flavor. Okay, so this is the My Knife flavor rating. We are going to rank it differently because this is obviously trying to deliver on the fantasy or the flavor of it being, this cool thing, right? And I definitely don't think it's an F either. Because there's things in there that are like, look, this does make a mind blade. It does come out of your head. It does function slightly different than a weapon. Like, it's worse. You know, it has no hardness, and the damage hits you in that face instead of your weapon. You can change it each day, you know. So, I mean, it is delivering. You do have, in the fictional reality of our game, you do have a mental blade. I just don't know how good this is delivering on people who want to have that sort of psychic soul knife kind of feeling. Does getting a weapon that is functionally equivalent to everybody else in the game's weapon do it for you? Right? Is that what you're looking for? Just a bunch of feats to say, my weapon has the same runes and the same stats as all of your weapons, but mine comes out of my, you know, brain and yours comes out of a sheath, right? Is that worth 3 or 4 or 5 feats? You know, I don't know. Kragan, thank you for the tip.
Kragan tipped $5. If you called the archetype Smith and took off all the mind fluff, would it even be any different? It just saves you money because you do your weapon cost yourself.
I mean, I tend to agree with you there, completely. Thank you for the tip. We got the votes coming in. Looks like it's 50% C, 31% B, 18% D. For me, as a flavor, I think this is a D. And I'll tell you, it's that keychain, people. It's the key fob. This part here just bothers me for some odd reason so much. I don't know why. Like, the whole point of this, if you're going to go down this route, listen to me. Anybody who voted A or B, even C, listen. The whole point of this is that you don't need anything, right? You don't need it. It's just from you. And now you need this. You know what would have been cool? I'll tell you this cool. Because, I mean, all it's really doing, it's saving you money. Imagine if you were playing a game that didn't use automatic bonus progression. But like this archetype essentially gave you automatic bonus progression. Imagine that your Mind Blade was automatically a +1 potency at level 2. It was automatically a +1 potency and striking rune at level 4, right? That would be, not only would that be mechanically compelling and interesting and kind of cool, but also it would just be like, yes, I do not need anything. You could strip me naked and throw me in a cell, and in that pit of darkness, suddenly there's a flare of sort of greenish white light, and my Mind Blade extends from my, from my extended wrist or my hand, and I am armed and I am good to go. So I want to give it an F in mechanics and a D in flavor. Yeah, you need your keychain with runes, and I just hate the keychains. Okay, you're convinced you would change it from C to D? It's the only way in the game to get... Okay, you sound like such a nerd here, Damien. It's the only way in the game to get a reach, grapple, and trip on a weapon. Ugh. Is that why we're going down the road of being able to manifest blades from our mental power? Is so that we can get reach, grapple on a trip? Come on. All right, well, that's 2 people who said that they are going to switch to D, but overwhelmingly, a lot of people are in C. So I'm going to give it a C in flavor, but begrudgingly.
Coral tipped $50.
Oh!
The deranking videos have been keeping me company at work while learning Pathfinder. Thanks for amazing content.
Well, thank you, Corel. Appreciate the very generous tip there. Corel, by the way, is a recent new hero to the Night's Last Call Patreon. So welcome to that, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we're not for everybody, Corel. We get deep, we criticize, we go way too long, and we spend hundreds of hours talking about Pathfinder 2, but, there we go. But thank you very much for that, and we appreciate that you're spending your time at work with us, and welcome to the game. there's a lot here. All right. C's the winner, and I will put it there. And even though there were more B's, I'm going to put it C minus. Going deep and long is a bad thing now. I mean, percent. You only see, Corral gets it. That's what I always try to say. I always try to say, look at this channel. Look at all the games I don't talk about. Right? I don't talk about 5th edition. I don't have anything to say because I don't care. I don't care about 5th edition. I played it a handful of times. It's just not my game that I'm really into or playing. So I don't talk about it. I talk about game. If a game bothered me and I actively didn't like it, I just wouldn't talk about it because I wouldn't play it. And I wouldn't have a desire to play it. And I wouldn't have a desire to engage with it. This is a game that I clearly have a desire to engage with. And I have a interest, both academic and, you know, entertainment wise. And I just feel like that's exactly right. I criticize because I do care. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I think Pathfinder 2 has a very solid structure. And in terms of its design and the way that it is conceptualized, I think it is an A minus game, which is saying something for me. But I think the way that they have implemented it over these past 3 years leaves something to be desired. I think there was a lot of things that just fell through the cracks. And we see glimmers of greatness here and there, but it, you know, sometimes we get some stuff that I think is, quite frankly, feels a bit phoned in. And I'm not trying to, you know, I hate that I even have to make this statement. I'm not trying to criticize any of the designers who made this. I'm not trying to say, let me rephrase it. I am criticizing them, but I'm not saying that they're bad people. And I'm not saying that if you enjoy an archetype that I don't like, it doesn't mean that I don't dislike, or that I dislike you, or that I don't think that you should be playing this. I am simply evaluating these mechanics on not only my personal tastes, take that with a grain of salt, if you will, but also from the eye and the mind of someone who's been playing these games for 30 years, who's played hundreds and hundreds of board games, who used to play semi-competitively pro Magic and The Gathering. And so, yeah, I mean, I played a lot of games, and I think if you're going to put something out into the public environment, people are going to criticize it. Like I said, a new Magic set is coming out this week, and I've watched all week streams and videos, 5, 6, 7 hour videos of people going through the new card designs and going, you know, D, not playable. You'd be embarrassed to put this in your deck. F, totally unplayable. Maybe it's good for somebody's wonky, weird kitchen table Magic deck, but would never see play in any sort of competitive environment whatsoever. You know, and they're not saying that the designers suck at their jobs, but they are saying that card does. So, all right. That was all I want to say. Thank you. All right, Mummy. Now, so far, Lich fell short, but Ghoul and Ghost did really well. So this is another Book of the Dead archetype. So I am interested to see how we do with the Mummy. All right. I've always had a soft spot for the Mummy. I like the Mummy as an undead. I think I like them because the Mummy's curse in D&D mechanics was always just such a fun thing to deal with, and it was scary. Like the way that a rust monster was scary in D&D, or at least it used to be scary in D&D. Mummies always felt very scary to me because they gave you this, you know, lasting curse that you basically couldn't get rid of. It was kind of cool. I always liked them a lot. So we all know what mummies are. Now we know from Book of the Dead that all of our other undead archetypes have thirsted for or hungered for something in death. And then usually each of these archetypes has had some sort of mini resource system to make use of that. And I want to see, Lich disappointed us because it didn't really do that at all. So let's see if the Mummy can deliver on it. Hey, great role-playing Debbie. I've actually been watching some MTG lore vids. I love how they weave the lore with what's happening in the card. Yeah, so when Magic the Gathering delivers on a great card design, and that card is not only compelling mechanically, but through the mechanics of the game is telling the story of what is happening in that moment or in the world, that is always to me just a beautiful moment in design, and I love it so much. The D&D set had a lot of fun moments for that. So, all right, here we go. But thank you for the super chat, by the way. Mummy dedication. We are dead, and we are mummified. We gain the mummy and undead traits, as well as the basic undead benefits. We've gone through these a million times before. They're not the same as being an actual undead. You know, it's like dark vision and some other stuff. But, you know, whatever. But we get the mummy trait. Does that do anything for us? Doesn't seem to. Doesn't seem to. Okay. Yeah, there are some dedications that feel a little bit weird to be at level 2. Like, oh, I'm level 2. And it's like, you are great, Pharaoh. We will, you know, worship you and take you into the next life. Many effects that harm the living are far less effective against your desiccated form, but your dried out body is flammable. You get the toughness feat, which is a good general feat to have. But you gain fire weakness equal to half your level. So toughness is going to give us 20 hit points at level 20. So it's going to give us like 1 hit point at level 1. It's going to give us like 5 hit points level 5. And in exchange, we are going to be taking extra fire damage the entire campaign. My guess is this is going to hurt you more than it's going to help you over the course of a very long campaign. Super bruh says, just wanted to say, I recently found your videos and they're great, super helpful and well made. Appreciate what you're doing, bruh. Well, thank you, super bruh. Glad you're here. Oh yeah, an ancient elf writing in. An ancient elf could be mummified at level 1. Is that right? That'd be kind of sweet. I actually kind of like that. Okay. Your damage is D6, so you get deadly. You're a martial artist. Look at that. you get D6 instead of D4. It loses the non-lethal. This is literally what martial artist gave us, by the way. And you are supernaturally bound to your terrain. Uh-oh. Because of the ingredients used in it, you must choose Arctic, desert, mountain, or swamp. This can't be changed and may alter some of your feats. I am a swamp mummy. Yes, I also do love that great role-playing Debbie, aka Frost, aka Phoenix, has not changed ever since the Christmas.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Since the Poppet stream. Okay. One with the land. Oh, see, already, yikes. We're tied to these. Whenever you get things that are tied to geographies, it's always not, it never delivers, people. It never delivers. All right, we'll try for it here. But also remember, these things are almost universally flavor. So we are already kind of grading this on the flavor column. Your connection to your bound terrain strengthens, making you unhindered by local weather. When in your bound terrain, you ignore the effects of non-magical difficult terrain. Okay. In addition, your experience from your bound terrain lets you ignore circumstance penalty to visual perception checks and ignore concealment caused by certain environmental checks. Arctic snow, dice, desert, sand, mountain, mists, swamp, the rain. I mean, I guess this is okay, but it's just not what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of a mummy. You know what I mean? This isn't what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of a mummy. I don't think of the mummy being like, I am unterred by these roots and rocks and briars because I was bound here. I'm a mummy. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Sorry. Semblance of life. Okay, now we're talking. Oh. If we deal damage with a desiccating effect, our fist, we can draw the moisture appearing lifelike, and we get the illusory disguise, but only as ourself, as if we were living. Okay, so this is very clearly, doesn't say how long it lasts. Does it only last an hour? maybe. I mean, this is like a classic thing from like, at least from the Mummy movie, right? The one with, you know, Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser and all those amazingly beautiful, hot men and women. What a great movie. That's such a good movie. I love the first one, but I got to be honest with you. I think I like the second one even more. I mean, the first movie is kind of like a horror. It's got elements of comedy, right? So I don't even want to call it a horror, but there's like a darkness there, right? But the second one, The Mummy Returns, I mean, that's a D&D adventure, right? That is a D&D adventure. They're going the thing, and they go to the temple in the forest, and they're traveling overland. They're in an airship. They've got all sorts of crazy stuff going. There's like and you know what I also love about that second movie? The kid. Kids in movies suck, but the kid in that movie is awesome. Their kid, Evie and Rick's kid, is incredible. That's how well I like that movie. I remember the name of the main characters. Wow. All right. Anyways, Scorpion King was not as good. The third Mummy movie was definitely not as good because they got rid of Rachel Weisz. That was a mistake. Okay. Yeah. I just love that. I love the party in The Mummy, you know? Rick and Evie and Jonathan and okay.
Good, I can't maneuver.
Stay on target.
Thank you.
We're too close.
Stay on target.
Okay. All right, thank you, Salty Bacon. Not on archetype days, I'm sorry. Okay. Anyways, point is, mummies tended to be able to do this. This is just done a little bit awkwardly, that I'm like sucking water from people and I have to deal damage to somebody to disguise myself amongst the living. I like the idea of it. I don't like the trigger. So, well, I'm going to pass on this. Grave mummification. We get the advanced undead benefits. In addition, we gain resistance equal to half our level against any damage that we would take from the terrain. They're really leaning into the terrain aspect on this archetype, and I don't like it. That's not what I think of. Mummy's Despair. Okay, once an hour, all the traits, including emotion and fear and mental and divine, we force our mental anguish outward, projecting it on those around us. So this is Mummy's Despair aura is a classic thing. You gain an aura of despair in a 30-foot emanation that lasts 5 rounds. A creature that enters or begins its turn in the aura must make a will save against the higher of your class or spell DC, or become frightened 1, frightened 2 on a failure. A creature that succeeds at the save is immune to the Mummy's Despair for 10 minutes. Let's see how that compares to our baseline mummy. Let's pick up here the Mummy Guardian. So our Mummy Guardian's aura of despair does have the incapacitation trait. Living creatures are frightened 1 within the aura, automatically. They can't naturally recover from this fear while they're in the aura, but instantly recover when they leave the area. When it first enters the area, it has to make a will save after becoming frightened or become paralyzed for 1 round, and then they are temporarily immune to 20 feet. I get that they couldn't make it paralyzed, but come on, man. Just let me get the fear 1 aura. Come on. Just let me get frightened 1 automatically. Come on. A cursed touch. When you critically strike with your fist, so now they're assuming that we're actually attacking with this terrible attack, by the way. So maybe we're like a monk mummy. Wait, does our fist even have... Yeah, I guess it's still unarmed. Okay, so maybe a mummy monk works. They take 2d6 persistent negative damage. Not bad. And while they have this damage, they're also stupefied 1. That's not bad. It goes to 3d6 at 14 and 46 at 20. I hate when things go to 46 at 20. So I just hate when things go to anything at 20. It's like, give it to me at least at 18. Just give it to me at 18. Let me get a couple levels to enjoy it. This is okay. And it, it feels kind of scary and cursy. But again, now I have to be punching as my mummy. So it kind of prices me into being a melee and using my fists. Storm Shroud. We are surrounded by swirling clouds, rain, swarm, snow. we become concealed for 1 minute, and we can't use this to hide or sneak. We can use it once an hour. But it's not actually an aura. It's just we just gained concealment for 1 minute from casting this, and we can't hide or sneak. You know what they also call this spell? Blur. So this just lets us cast Blur once an hour. Pretty sure Blur probably does exactly the same thing. One creature, 1 minute, it's Blur. It becomes concealed, and it can't hide or sneak. So this is Blur. Free Blur. Now, at level 8, getting a free Blur once an hour is like getting maybe a couple level 2 spell slots extra a day that can only be used for Blur. Keep in mind that a level 2 scroll is like 4 gold or 6 gold or something very cheap, so it's not exactly a huge resource gain here. But as you get higher levels, I mean, the value of a level 2 spell becomes very minimal. And, yeah. Okay. It's Blur. With a lot of flavor text. And see, I can't help but wonder if this is the way that people design for Pathfinder 2. If they just go through the magical item chapters and they go through the spells and they just find a spell that's maybe 2 or 3 levels lower than the level of the feat, right? Oh, we're level 8, so we're almost level 9, which would be level 5 spells. Let's find a level 2 spell. And then they say, okay, I'll just copy this effect. I'll add a bunch of different traits and a bunch of different flavor, and then use basically the same casting and the same duration as a spell. And we're just sort of redoing it as a spell. Channel Rot. Now we can channel our curse through our weapon. Okay. Which is kind of weird because like the whole time up until this point, you would have been using your fist or never using your rot, and then suddenly you start using a weapon because now you can. You know, it's a PC mummy. It's not a monster mummy. Just let the PC, they should have just been able to do this from the beginning. Ensnaring wrappings. Oh, God. Now we're getting all mum-ra on these people. Your strike deals physical damage to a creature that's within the reach of your arms and isn't one more size larger category than you. You can attempt to grapple the creature you just damaged. Keep in mind that this is a reaction, so it's not a free action. You're using up your reaction on your turn, and you're making a check. You don't grapple, you attempt to grapple, which means you've just made a strike. That means you have multiple attack penalty. This is a very bad plus grab, Kraken. This should have just been plus grab. This should have just been plus grab. Why couldn't this just be plus grab? You're a mummy, for God's sakes. Give them something. Use up the action. It's fine, and just have it be a free grab after you hit somebody because you're a freaking mummy. That's okay. I promise you, it's not going to destroy the game. All right. Man, more with the terrain form. And by the way, they're not even trying to be cute this time. They didn't want to repeat the whole damn spell. They just said, look up gaseous form. Just look it up. like for this spell, they were like, oh, if we're really clever, maybe nobody will notice that this is just Blur. But for this one, they were like, oh, okay. By the way, once a day. And gaseous form is a level 4 spell. So you're level 10 when you're getting this. You're almost about to cast level 6 spells. So this is equivalent to a level 6. This is equivalent to a level like 11 or 10 spellcaster. You know, and I guess the advantage here is it's one action. So you get that. It is one action instead of 2. But man, that is, I mean, obviously, here's the thing. From a flavor perspective, yeah, I mean, you know, again, I'm judging this strictly based off of what the Mummy could do in the Mummy movie. And yes, you know, he could turn into like a swirling sandstorm. But man, you should be able to fly or something, you know? I mean, I guess you can kind of fly at gaseous. No. Oh, you can fly spin. Fly 10. Come on. I want swirling sandstorms, not slow-moving sandstorms. desiccating. Up next, occult spells for the mummy. Throw your canopic jars and coat your target in internal organs. Choking. Yeah, no, Ayla, it's definitely more honest. I definitely appreciate that. 100%. Kragen's right. It's level 10. The jig is up. We can just, keep going. Or at least have it be like better, right? Better in your terrain, right? When the sand mummy turns into a sand, cloud, storm, dust devil in the desert, that should be awesome, right? That should be cool. All right, desiccating inhalation. We draw in the moisture from nearby enemies, draining them to dry to heal our wounds. So again, we've seen this from the mummy, right? He like sucks. I mean, those are the people who had opened the canopic jars, but he like sucks them. He's sucking like the life force out of them. But sure, desiccation's fine too. 30-foot cone. All right, 6d8 negative damage. How does that compare? So that is 27 average damage, which is equivalent to about 8d6, which is well under what we would expect to be doing here. Cone of Cold at this level would be doing 14d6, almost 16d6. So this is literally operating at about half the power of a Cone of Cold, but, or put another way, this is equivalent to a level 4, which is like spell level 7, Burning Hands, with a little bit longer on the cone. Anyways, 68 negative damage with basic reflex save against your class DC. It's strange, right? Sometimes we've seen in this class or in other classes. I've said this before. Like, explain this to me. I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a rant here. But like, look at this. The Mummy's Despair. What? Okay, explain to me why this is the case. Is this just editing? Or is this like, maybe I am stupid. Like, I don't know. Like the Paizo forums and Reddit seem to think I am. This one says they have to make a will save against the higher of your class DC or your spell DC. Then, in the same archetype, we get Desiccating Inhalation, and it's a basic reflex save against your class DC. Why are those two things different? Not only is that confusing, but why? Why are they different? Why not just use that language everywhere? And I get it. Maybe there's different authors who are doing different things, but like, it's just kind of like, what's going on here? So just don't quite understand. Oh, hey, Quirk. Quirk, did you get a... Quirk, I did not see a super chat come through from you there, buddy. I did not see it. It's not on my list either. Oh, no. I appreciate the effort. Maybe it'll come. Maybe it's just delayed, Quirk. I don't know. But I trust you, and I believe that you did. But if you want to ask your question, I will definitely get it out. If you want to just type it in again into the chat. All right. So anyways, if they critically fail, they're drained 1. And as long as at least one creature is damaged, you get hit points equal to your level. Into your level? Come on. Come on. Come on. It's only once an hour. Like, let that thing be. For each creature damaged by your desiccating inhalation, you regain hit points equal to your level. Now that would be sweet. I'm level 12. I hit 5 or 6 people with this thing. I gained 70 hit points. And you're like, Derek, come on, 70 hit points? You're level 12 for God's sakes. Need I remind you that that is still less hit points than what a heal spell can heal for at this level. But that would be cool. That would be sweet. And also, by the way, if you're hitting 7 people with this spell, like that's insane, right? You're going to mmostly hit like 3 people with this spell. So at least 12 hit points. Come on, we can do better. Greater Despair. Okay, here we go. A creature that critically fails is now paralyzed for 1 round. It replaces it. And then it gains incapacitation. I think this might make it worse. Not worth it. Don't take this. And then the Mummy, which in my mind is a more powerful form of undead, right? And the scan, like, you know, like ghouls and zombies and skeletons, they're like down here. And then like ghosts might be like here. Mummies and vampires are like closer to the top. And then like Lich is at the very tip top. But I mean, a mummy's no slouch. This thing only goes to level 12? People, I'm not loving the Mummy. I'm tempted to give it a DN flavor. I'm sorry. It didn't do it for me. It really didn't. I just didn't feel like the Mummy flavor was there. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. Also, in the Book of the Dead, they specifically say that there is no ability. There is no the undead all have this like hunger that they have to fulfill. I'm positive that this is in Book of the Dead. But like and we saw it in like the ghoul and the ghost and the vampire, but we didn't see it here at all. They lean too hard into natural mummies and not ritualistic mummies. So it's pretty much just a plain old zombie. Quark, you were just offering encouragement. Well, buddy, I'm sorry. I check your thing and make sure you didn't get. I hope they didn't steal your money. YouTube sons of bitches. It's just they're slightly thirsty all the time. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't get it. In my Bloodlords game, one of my players is playing an Aetheric Dragon unarmed gymnast swashbuckler from Battle Zoo and took the Mummy archetype, because when you're an Aetheric Dragon unarmed gymnast swashbuckler, you're also probably thinking, I need another archetype on that one. Mummy, you think it's a C. Well, it looks like most people are putting it in D, although it's leaning towards C. Great role-playing Debbie Phoenix says, it just references too many different stereotypes and does none of them particularly well. It's also just copying a lot of the Mummy movie lore too. I would agree with you as well. Yeah. For me, the over-reliance on terrain and not being particularly interesting in that respect, and just not leaning more into the Mummy tropes that I wanted to see, and not doing anything with like the nature of being a mummy, is disappointing to me. Will of the Wisp asks, what was the ghoul rated at? All right, things are going to get real messy for a second here, because I'm going to turn all these on. The ghoul was an A, Will of the Wisp, and the ghost was an S. So ghoul was an A and ghost was an S. Okay. Hey, there it is. Quark did it. Thank you, Quark. Coming down the home stretch. You could do it. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the support, Quark. Yeah, we're coming through here nicely. There's definitely we're definitely front loaded. I think someone said that like when we got through the M's, we would be like 2/3 of the way through. So, all right, people, we got 3 more archetypes to do tonight. So we're gonna knock out N, and then we're gonna knock out the O's. So what do we got here? We've got the Nantambu Chime Ringer from Spoken on the song Wind. All right, we're from Strength of Thousands, so any spoilers potentially for that? This is a very weird. It's a very short. It's only got like 5. It's not the sort. It's like a medium length one, but kind of. This is one of those ones where it's like you have a dedication at 2, a feat at 4, and then no feats until 10. I'm not gonna lie. This bothers me. Am I missing something here? Because here's the problem. Well, if it's 2 and I take it at 2, I guess you know what it is. I take it back. Like if you're using free archetype, this means what? You're just gonna pass on free archetype at 6 and 8, and like they should have other options, even if it's not a free archetype. Even if you're assuming that the people are just taking this like a normal person, you should have multiple options at level 4. There shouldn't just be the one option at level 4. I don't know. And I get it. You could take an archetype at level 8, but you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you guys could tell me. I just don't like when they do this. 2, 4, 10, 12, 16. You know, there's just these huge gaps. I just don't like it. That it's just not a design that I am a big fan of. So I'm already kind of off on this. Obviously being okay, so strength 1,000, you automatically have a caster archetype at the beginning. I got it. Okay. Right, but then I'm not able to use it, right? Like I'm going to get a free archetype, but then I can't take anything at 6 and 8. That kind of stinks, right? All right. So you need to be trained in performance and society. You get a single cantrip. And again, these are coming from Strength of Thousands, which apparently you get these for free. So you get 1 cantrip. And you get that DC with Int or Charisma if we choose Occult. Or Int if we choose Arcane. Or Charisma if we choose Occult. And we get trained in Arcana or Occultism. Or an Expert if we're already trained in both. So we get double Expert. We'd have to be trained in Performance, Society, Arcana, and Occultism. But if we do all that, we get double Expert bump and we get a single cantrip. So not even a double cantrip. So this is already worse than a standard Wizard, Sorcerer dedication. But we do get the double Expert. So maybe it balances out. I don't really care about cantrips that much anyways. Yeah, I agree. They make some design for free archetype. Fleet Tempo at 2 actions once an hour. Everyone gains a plus 10 foot status bonus to all speeds for 1 minute. That's actually not bad. You can repeat it. It's a pretty decent speed boost. Obviously, it doesn't stack with Long Strider, but not everybody's going to have access to Long Strider. And, you know, for a minute, everybody in your party, 30-foot allies, you know, it's a lot of speed. I don't know that you're really going to want to cast this during combat, but if you could somehow use the Fleet Tempo before initiative is rolled, that'd be pretty cool. And then we get nothing for like the rest of the first half of the game. And then we get Deny the Songs of War. We get Deafness and level 4 Silence once a day. Yikes. For Chime Ringers. Come on, aren't we? Why are we making things silent? Shouldn't we maybe making things tone? Seems a little weird. Deafness is not great. Heightened Silence is okay. I don't mind Heightened Silence, but Sing to the Steel, 2 actions once an hour. You strike magical tones that could turn the tide of combat. You and your allies within 30 feet, which is a good distance, gain the effect of one of the following runes until the end of your next turn. Elementals: Corrosive, Disrupting, Flaming, Frost, Shock, Thundering, and you also could choose Ghost Touch. But it's 2 actions, and you're giving everybody a rune for 1 turn. The effects apply to a single weapon the creature is holding or the creature's unarmed attacks. You choose the rune and the effects. You can use an action, which has a Concentrate trait, to extend the duration of this runes for 1 additional round up to a max. So it becomes like a bard song. If this would give a weapon or unarmed attack more property runes than its maximum, it's suppressed. So like you're at level 12, like within a couple levels of taking this, everybody's going to have 3 runes on their weapon. And you're going to say, like, I can help you, but then you're going to have to lose one of your runes. So it's not even helping you. And I'm spending actions to do that. I mean, that's probably the best example I could think of. Yeah. I just don't get why they're so concerned about that. There's so much cost going into maintaining this. I can only do it once an hour. I'm spending 2 actions. I'm spending 1 action to every turn after that. And to what? Give everybody in my high teens, almost 20 eventually, party, plus D6 flaming damage? Hey, Mighty Dave. Can't really join the stream due to West Coast timing issues, but wanted to support ARCHETYPE. Well, Mighty Dave, appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate the super chat for sure. Thank you so very much. Yeah, D6 people. It's D6 flaming. And I don't know about you, but it's like, you know, if I had this person in my party, this chime ringer, and the party has some cool runes on their weapons, and we fight against a creature, and it's like an ice elemental, and not everybody in the party has a flaming rune, and suddenly this person can add flaming runes to all of our weapons, and we're all triggering its weakness, and it's not like shutting down our other runes. Like, that feels fun to me. That feels cool to me. Like, I like that idea a lot, but I don't feel like it should have to suppress the other person. I'm not saying this is bad. I actually think this is rather good. I just don't like that it has to suppress the other rune. Like, why make it take away somebody else's cool, fun character that they built just so that you can give it an extra rune, you know? Okay. Song of Grace and Speed. 2 actions, once a day, and you give everybody haste. It was literally haste. Haste 7, which you get at 13. So this is 1 7th level spell slot a day. Is there anything else about this that isn't just haste 7? Nope, this is literally haste 7. I don't know. It's not the worst thing in the world, but come on. Like, your spellcasters are going to have like 4 or 5 or 6 slots of this. Also, I guess this stuff has to do with ringing chimes of metal, bamboo, and glass. You get a cantrip. You can make people move faster. You can cast silence. We can give something a rune, and we can cast haste. Nin says they can also step. I thought you could step with haste. Nope, just strike and stride. You're right. All right, so slightly better. I don't hate this, but come on. Like, this should be, I don't know. This should be once an hour. Honestly, it's level 16. I would make this once an hour. Again, I might be the worst game designer in the history of the world. I just know that if this was once an hour, it would feel fun and awesome and compelling, and I'd be happy that this person was in my party. All right. I don't know anything about this adventure path or these people. Does anything in this archetype really speak to the chime ringers, essentially being the elite town guards? I'm going to leave it to the people who know the mythology of this world and this land far more than me. So this is a flavor on the bell, on the chime ringing people. So is this an A, a B, a C, or a D? I honestly don't know. I know we have some people in here that are playing Strength of Thousands, but I just Boothby, I know the adventure path. The answer is no. I'm just going to go with whatever chat says on this one, people, because I have no idea where to even put this. I mean, there's maybe like a theme of singing, like, because it says here, they are the elite town guard, an ancient tradition of chimes. But we have something here called Songs of War. Sing to the steel. I mean, it says you strike magical tones. And this one says Song of Grace. It doesn't really say anything about magical tones. I don't particularly know that it feels super chimey. I don't know. See, Salty Bacon, you say that. That's not necessarily true. I mean, it is routinely the case, in my experience, playing high-level Pathfinder 2 and seeing some of other people, like especially people in our Discord playing Pathfinder 2, that at higher levels, even against a higher-level foe, you will have characters who will routinely be hitting their foe on a 2 or even a 0, critting on a 10 plus with 2 dice rolls. So having essentially a 75% chance of critting, with the crit putting them prone, putting them flat-footed, stacking up a bunch of other effects from their weapons, plus spell strikes, plus this. I mean, you could easily... Luke says, wait, what? Hitting on a 2? What game are we playing? Oh, Luke, we are playing Pathfinder 2. Yeah, real quick. So let's imagine, if you will, for a moment, that we're playing Pathfinder 2. And in Pathfinder 2, you typically are going to, let's say that you need, let's say that this creature, because in Pathfinder 2, most of the time, you need like a 10 to hit an opponent, right? But let's say that they're higher level. Let's say that we need like a 12 to hit them, because this is a monster that's a level or 2 higher than us. So we need a 12 to hit them. Well, for starters, we might be a fighter. And the fighter is going to be +2 to hit over everybody else. Okay? And then, people boot off the whiteboard. You people. All right. All right. All right. Get the whiteboard out here. Don't even know what's happening. I'm only doing this because it was requested. All right. All right, let's see here. Good old Microsoft whiteboard. All right. Okay. So, we got... All right, so, like I was saying before, this is the good stuff. You guys are funny. So, okay. So, let's say... So, the standard restriction of Pathfinder is that you need, like, a 10 to hit. A 10 plus to hit. But let's say that this is a higher level foe, and that we need a 12 to hit. Because they're higher level than us, okay? But we're a fighter. And by the way, this is assuming that we have our strength is, or whatever, our dex or whatever, is as high as it could be. We started with an 18. We put it to 19 at 5. We put it to 20 at level 10. It assumes that we have a +2 or +3 sword at the level that you're supposed to get it, right? We're doing the stuff that we're supposed to do. But let's say that we're a fighter. So we're the fighter class. And the fighter class is always 2 points of proficiency higher than everybody else. So the fighter is worth 2. Now, let's say that we're, when Luke says, let's define level. Yeah, I mean, Luke, it could be lower level. But let's just, for fun, let's just say that we're a little bit higher level here, okay? So let's say that we have a heroism cast on our fighter. And the heroism, it could be a heroism 9th, but then we have to be, level 17. But let's just assume it's a heroism 6. We're level 13 fighter. So we get heroism 2. Okay? Great. Cool. So that's giving us 2 points of bonus. Then let's assume that we're being aided, that somebody in our party. Now we're only level 13. We're level 13, 13th level, right? So people, now the fighter is legendary. The fighter could aid us for +4, but let's assume that we don't have another fighter in our party. And we're only being aided by somebody that is a master in their weapon or in their skill. Well, that's worth 3 points. Okay? So our fighter, from a buff, which lasts 10 minutes, from just being a fighter, which is worth 2 points, the heroism's worth 2 points, and the aid is worth +3. And let me tell you something. Using your third action, rather than making probably even a second strike, you might be hasted as well. So really, you could have 4 actions a turn. There are many, many situations in which the best thing to do is to aid someone in your party, because hitting and critting are so important. All right, so we got a 2, 4, 7. Now, that's on the buff side. Let's go to the debuff side. Let's just say something really simple. Let's say we're flanking this person. Nothing complicated here. They could also be prone. They could be grappled, but the flank is going to give them a -2 circumstance bonus to their armor class. But let's say that our bard or our cult sorcerer hit them with a synesthesia. Now, we're level 13. Synesthesia is a 5th level spell. That means that we've had this spell for 4 levels now. This is coming out of our 5th level spell slots, and we're on 7th level spell slots. This is a low level spell. The good news about synesthesia is, even if the person you target it with passes their save, if they succeed at their save, they become clumsy 3. That is a -3 status bonus to their armor class. So the armor class of our opponent is down by 5 points. Our attack bonus is up by essentially 7 points. That is a 12-point differential. We started needing a 12 to hit, and now we hit on a 0 or higher. And that's at level 13, and that's without having 5 fighters in the party or anything of the like. So that is how you do it. And that's a 0+ to hit. Now, this means, by the way, that you have, and by the way, what I'm describing here is not crazy. This is, I mean, yes, Heroism 2 is a 6th level spell, which is your highest level spell, but it does last for 10 minutes. So you should be able to, you know, get a couple of fights on this. The aid is repeatable over and over again. And by the way, at this level, 13th level, you will critically hit on your aid attempt 100% of the time, or like 95% of the time. Flanking, we've been doing this the whole game. Synesthesia, I'm using this as a great example because it's a very powerful spell, but in many ways, certain sicken spells, certain frighten spells, yeah, and these are not your highest level spells. The heroism is a 6th, right? We're 13th level. Our spellcasters have 7th level spells. They have 6th level spells. They have 5th level spells. They have 4th level spells. The heroism spell, that is 1 slot out of 6 from the 6th level. So that is from our cleric or our bard from a couple levels ago. The 5th level spell from synesthesia or from fear, that's from several levels ago. This is not Nova. This is not every fight. This is pretty par for the course. I mean, I pretty much routinely see this happen essentially every round. So it's good to go. Now, of course, would I be doing this if I was fighting multiple opponents? No, but that's where my casters would just be casting chain lightning and just pretty much killing everybody in one go. What I was going to say here is you hit on a 0+, which means you crit on a 10+. That means you crit 55% of the time. If you have access to True Strike or a Hero Point or True Target, all of which are possible through multi-classing, archetypes, or just having Hero Points. This means that you actually, because right now you have a 55% chance of critting, but if you use that reroll and that Hero Point or use that True Strike, that means that your chances of critically hitting are actually, you ready for this? 80% crit rate. if you get to roll 2d20 and you crit on a 10 or higher, then your chances of critically hitting are 80%. And since a critical hit is worth more than even 2 hits, because not only are you doubling the damage, but you also get some of your runes do extra effects on critical hits. You get your critical specialization effect, which can be a huge bonus for fatal weapons or whatever. Because if you're going to make this attack, this is the type of attack where it's like, well, if someone's going to be aiding me and I'm going to be benefiting from all of this stuff, this is where you want to do a power attack. This is where you want to be using something like a great pick or something that has a big impact on a critical hit. You don't want to be, the type of character who is attacking with a D4 weapon. Although, to be clear, this would also be really good on a rogue. A critical hit from a rogue or a critical hit from a magus. I mean, reverse this situation around. Let's make it the fighter who is aiding our magus. Okay, so our magus doesn't get this. So our magus is hitting on a 2+ because they're not a fighter. But our fighter aids the magus. Well, the fighter gives +4 bonus from aid because they're legendary in their weapon. So now our magus is hitting on a 1+. They're critting on an 11+. And our magus is more than capable of casting True Strike themselves. So the magus casts True Strike, and then the magus spell strikes with a good cantrip or a powerful spell. And it doesn't even have to be a freaking highest level spell they have. It's just True Strike from maybe like a wizard archetype slots, and they use a cantrip like Electric Arc or something, and they do a ton of damage because it's pretty much going to be like a 75% crit chance. And they can just do that next round for the cost of 1 action from the fighter to aid and 1 level 1 True Strike target or a spell slot from the magus. So yeah, that is how you hit on a 0+ in Pathfinder 2 and crit. And again, this is at level 13. You don't have access to things like heroism, and aid really is not really an option at low levels because the DC 20 is too hard to hit. So in some ways, lower level Pathfinder 2 is kind of the hardest part of the game. You don't have a lot of spell slots. You don't have a lot of money. The monster's hit points are like doubling each level. And that's crazy. Whereas at higher level, they don't double each level. They just increase by a static amount, which is well within your wheelhouse. Anyways. Ending the poll, we ended up with flavor C for the chime ringer. And I'm okay with that. Let's see here. Technically, in either case, they hit on a 2+. Yes. A 1 would be a hit, Roxley, but it would get downgraded to a miss. It would be a critical miss, though, but you were correct. I did forget about that. That was my fault. But my point is, you are technically hitting on a 0+. The natural 1 still has that effect of shifting it. And more importantly, that's important that you're hitting on a 0+ because it means you crit on a 10+. To say that you hit on a 2+ implies that you crit on a 12+, but that is not the case. In our case, the fighter hitting on a 0+ does in fact crit on a 10+. Yes, and I'm just scratching the surface here. This isn't even, I would argue, Lug, like the Wombo combo. I mean, the Wombo combo is where like you've got the Magus with the spell strike and the big spell. You've got a two-handed party member who has a great pick and power attack, and you're stacking onto them to crit. I mean, this is just kind of generic, ordinary bonuses. I mean, you're at this level. I mean, a lot of people are going to be quicken. A lot of people are going to be haste. You're going to have a lot of extra actions just hanging around. Asking 1 or 2 party members a turn to aid, and it's an automatic success for +3. And then honestly, once you get to level 15 and everybody's legendary, it's almost always going to be +4 The fighter's giving out +4s at 13, but it's even not that bad of an option a few levels earlier when everybody's like 10 or something. But now, and again, I see this. I mean, our Knights of Last Call group obviously is pretty mechanically inclined, but we're not cheesy power gamers. We don't do like silly micro, super car op, super builds. I mean, if you've seen anything from our shows, you know that's not the case. But our Discord is a bunch of, gamers. And Luke, you're not entirely wrong, actually. In fact, I would argue, so you could argue this. I've seen people on Reddit, on the Paizo forums, say, like when I've pointed this out before, and people say, we need to nerf aid, or we need to nerf heroism. And I say, wait a second, no, this is what the game wants you to do, right? If you play it well, and by the way, the thing that was just happening, the fighter could never do that on their own. They need someone else to flank with them. They need a caster to cast heroism on them. They need a caster to cast a fear spell or a sicken spell or a clumsy spell on the enemy, right? They need another party member who's aiding them, right? You need all of these things in order for this to come to fruition. And then, the fighter drops the wombo combo. I mean, the double wombo combo is honestly like a fighter flanking with a rogue, because the rogue moves in with their high speed, they set up the flank, and then the rogue attacks on the flank and aids the fighter. And then the fighter hits with like a 2-action wombo combo, and then with their third action, they aid the rogue. And then the rogue hits, crits, does double sneak attack damage. It's just like this, and that's just, we're not talking about things that are completely insane or broken here. I'm talking about a rogue, and I'm talking about a fighter. So absolutely. So Lug, yes, this gets you away. Now here's the problem, Lug, though. It gets you away from the missing is boring, right? It absolutely does. But it also sort of can sometimes feel like it's painting you into a wall. Like there's kind of a, dare I say it, a rotation that you kind of are optimally designed to do. And the game gives you a lot of other these little cool things. Go get a point of fire damage so you can trigger its weakness and do 10 extra damage because it's got weakness 10 fire. And you're like, I think I'm just going to take the 80% chance to crit. And I'm just going to that's just more effective, easier to do. It's just kind of more, effective. That sounds fun. What you're describing sounds fun. I'm going to suss out its weaknesses with recall knowledge, and I'm going to do all this stuff. But, as we say here on the channel, the best status is dead. And so if you can just attack it with your normal weapons and your sneak attacks and your power attacks or your just normal crits from your big weapons and just kill a creature that way, why not do it that way? It's just, there's less variables, less things that can go wrong. And quite frankly, much easier. Every time I aid, the character I'm aiding rolls a nat 20 and crits anyways. Well, you can't really complain about that, Booth, because that would imply that it's your aid that makes them crit. So that's always pretty good. I love hitting stuff. I like getting that crit. Who doesn't, right? This is awesome. You feel so awesome as a player, and you stray away from the one-man army builds from I think you mean 5e, where you could just win the game, or Pathfinder 1, where you can just win the game by yourself. Absolutely, Luke. I mean, the fighter is very much a powerful fighter and combatant on their own, but there's no way any one character is pulling all of this off without the help of at least 2, maybe even 3 other characters. But that's kind of the name of the game, right? And the game gives you a lot of tools to let this happen and to make this happen. I promise you. Yeah, from first E is what you meant. Okay. Quark says, I don't know that I've ever seen aid in play. Well, to be clear, aid, the action, is basically useless until level 7, give or take. It really starts becoming highly attractive around, I want to think it's like around level 10. Is when it basically, at level 10, you're starting to get to the point where you're basically almost critically succeeding every time you aid. And as you get up into the teens, you're pretty much critically succeeding, literally critically succeeding every single time. But below level 7, it usually is not really worth it that much, unless you literally have nothing else to do. Because you're not probably going to crit. You're probably just going to succeed, and it's worth a +1 bonus. And don't get me wrong, those add up. +1 bonuses matter. But it's possible that one action is worth more than just a +1 circumstance bonus once. But a +3 or a +4 circumstance bonus is definitely worth an action, especially at high level where you're going to have more actions, either because you're hasted or quickened from other sources, or because you have so many feats that allow you to gain action economy. I mean, think of it this way. At level 1, your character's speed might have been 25. By the time you're, let's say, level 13 or 14 or 15, your character's speed might be 50 because they have like boots of bounding and, you know, someone cast Longstrider on them. So now your speed's like 45. The way to think of that is you kind of gained an action, because before it would have taken you 2 strides to cover 50 feet. And now you can cover it in 1 action. Or, you know, something like sudden charge, which you gain from level 1, by the way, is taking 2 actions, 2 actions to take 3 actions. It's move, move, attack. And by the time you're higher level, you have so many of these extra, I call them action economy enhancing options, that between that plus pretty ubiquitous quickened from haste and other effects, you tend to have a lot of ability to really burn some actions, especially helping aid. And in fact, I would argue that you need more things to do at higher level in Pathfinder 2. You're going to find yourself just, you know, swinging for the fences on that map -10 attack a lot. And that's not doing anybody good. Catholic, I know a lot of people that nerf aid by making the DC equal to the enemy's level DC or even their AC. And that is, they're missing the point of the game. I promise you. I mean, you could do that. Yeah, that's an option, but it is. Would those aid checks have map? No, aid does not have the attack trait, Quark. So it does not suffer or contribute to multiple attack penalty. Corel got it exactly right. There are 3 buff types and 3 debuff types. Your goal is to stack as many as you can. One of the buff types is item bonus, which you can't really get too well from, doing things inside of combat. That's usually what you get from your magical items. There's also technically an item penalty, but that is very, 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 very rare. It's usually something you get from like drinking an alchemist elixir, and good luck getting an enemy to swallow an alchemist elixir. But the other 2 bonus types are status, which usually comes from spells and special abilities, and circumstance, which typically comes from actions like raising a shield, taking cover, aid, flanking, prone, right? It's more physical. It's more, what are the circumstances that I am in? And there are bonuses and there are penalties. So if you could set up a situation where you're getting a circumstance bonus to hit, say your friend is aiding you, you're getting a status bonus to hit, say the cleric cast bless, or the bard cast heroism, or inspire courage buffed with inspire greatness. All of these things are going to give you a status bonus to your attack. So now I have a circumstance bonus to attack, I have a status bonus to attack, and then I put a circumstance penalty onto my opponent. And the best way to do that in the game is flat-footed, which comes from a variety of sources, including the ever ubiquitous flanking, which requires no check. It works against pretty much any level monster. And spell debuffs, usually sickened, frightened, clumsy, you know the types. Those are all going to put a penalty onto your foe's armor class. Those are going to typically come from spells. Sometimes they come from abilities like demoralize. But if you can stick a -2 or a -3 on your enemy on top of a -2 from being flat-footed from flanks, that's a -4 or -5 penalty. And it's kind of free. You perform a rotation in order to be able to take 20. Yeah, kind of. That's it. We solved the game. We found the path where Pathfinder closed the channel. Yeah, Lug. I mean, obviously this is stuff that I've been sort of, thinking about and talking about for probably close to 2 years now. But I mean, this really came to a forefront during our Northern Reaches game. You had a lot of people taking the game very seriously, 100+ players talking, and the challenge games became very challenging because the GMs found that the players wanted a real challenge. And in order to be able to challenge characters, they were fighting things that, you know, in the math of Pathfinder 2 would be considered something like an extreme plus, because that was the only way they could really challenge those characters because they were playing so well. So yeah. I can't tell if it's a design feature that some things scale poorly as you level and aid and heroism scale way too well. It definitely does make the phases of the game feel differently. Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's finish up. I know we already went over there. So we got 2 to do here, and they're both uncommon. Oozemorph from the Slithering. Weird. All right, so this is obviously a flavor, because the question is, does this make us feel like an ooze person? Luke, I'll get to your question in a second. The short answer is, sure, I would. But, I mean, realize the problem is they're going to get more experience then. So they're going to level up faster, which might be a problem for your campaign, or it might mean that they wrap it up earlier, or then the challenges, especially if you're going through an adventure path, become easier because now they're higher level. It kind of becomes a runaway problem. You don't want to punish your players for knowing how to play the game. I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in, and there's really no right answer. You could go with milestone, in which case it feels like you're punishing them for playing the game right. I don't know. That comes down to your players and what they want. If your players want to be badasses and feel like badasses and kind of crush things because they learned how to play the game well, then yeah. Or there's some famous video game which people I remember got really, really upset because they found out that no matter how much you leveled up, the monsters and the bosses always leveled up with you. And people got really upset about that because they said it feels like you're taking something away from me. So, all right. So we've become infected from a gibbering mouther or a Shoggoth. In other words, we are partially liquidy and threatening to slow off. Okay, Oblivion. Thank you. That was exactly the game. I knew it was some famous video game. All right. It's uncommon. We are plagued by sporadic anatomical rearrangements, which grant us insights into creatures with unusual anatomy. Boy, they are really stretching on that one. You become trained in occultism or ooze lore. Instead, you become an expert. So because I am now made of partial ooze and my body is amorphous, I gain ooze lore and occultism. That is probably the biggest stretch I've ever seen on granting skills. We get a +2 bonus to saves to be avoiding being engulfed and to escape. And we get a penalty to diplomacy against animals and humanoids equal to the number of class feats. Yikes. This is it's kind of a pretty brutal dedication. We're getting a sizable penalty. Very minimal bonus for some odd situations. And then we're getting trained in some skills because we're now made of ooze. That's a little bit weird. All right. I mean, it feels flavorful though, right? Oh, we're not getting engulfed. We're easy to escape because we're partially made out of liquid. We're a weird looking creature. Disturbing defense. Your internal organs and blood vessels have shifted and changed, and even you don't know where they are in your body. You get resistance to precision damage equal to 2 plus your number of crits, and your DC to recover from bleeding is 13 rather than 15. Flavorful, very on par for power, which is to say it's disappointing. You're going to end up with like piercing precision resistance 5 or 6, and precision damage isn't super common. And when you're getting hit for precision damage, usually it means you're taking extra damage. So it's not even going to feel like you're really taking that much less damage, but it is pretty par for the course here. But at least we have 2 level 4 feats to choose from. So they did that to us. Hideous ululation. Your throat has separate channels that can deliver an echo. You could be clearly heard at 300 feet. You know what? I kind of like this feat. Oh, it's a skill feat too. So we don't actually get 2 level 4 feats. One is just a skill feat. This makes sense. 300 feet. Sure. Why not? I'll buy. I'll take this as a skill feat, actually. As weird as it may sound, I like this feat. It's a skill feat, which makes it, if it was a class feat, I'd be very disappointed. But as a skill feat, I kind of love this. It just works. It just does it. Yeah, my weird creature can be... Is being allowed an ooze thing? Hell no, JG. It's not at all. But it's saying we have multiple throats and somehow, and an eerie echo, and somehow that makes us, I don't know, able to be heard a while away. Listen, I don't understand here. Vacate vision. Reaction. Trigger. You... Oh, I just realized what I read. Vacate vision. You fail, but don't critically fail a saving throw against an effect with the visual trait. So we are real niche here, people. Fail, but not critically fail, a saving throw, and it's got to have the visual effects. You cause your eyes to liquefy and run out of your sockets. You get a success on the save, but you're blinded instead. For the duration, had it been a failure. I don't know if that's worse. It's flavorful as hell, but it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. Never take this feat. Ever. Oh, but what a flavor win. But it's like, why can't we have both? All right. Ooze empathy. Well, remember how everyone thinks we're weird because we look like an ooze and we get that massive bonus to diplomacy? Guess what? We can now use diplomacy to make impressions of ooze. What up? Somehow this isn't a skill feat. This feels like this should be a skill feat, but it's not. You know, for all those times you want to be able to, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, we're part ooze now. So it's not out of the question that we might have a certain level of attraction to, say, you know, a black pudding, a gray ooze, a green slime. You know, just saying. Just saying. We can connect. Just because it literally only modifies a skill doesn't make it a skill feat. Duh. Meanwhile, the 300-foot throat singing does somehow become a skill feat. Go figure. Rubbery skin. Well, our skin is rubbery, and we get bludgeoning resistance to 2 plus a number of feats. We also gain resistance equal to twice that amount to extra damage from critical hits. All right, this feat plays. Bludgeoning is far more common than precision, and double resistance to critical hits is pretty good. It's pretty good. Uncanny suction. The romantic angle of this class continues to grow. Our limbs produce strange sucker-like growth that allows us to stick to walls and objects. We get a climb speed. And if we have the quick climber, it's our full land speed. And why wouldn't we? Because skill feats are pretty useless. And we get a +2 circumstance bonus to avoid being disarmed. Yes. So now we know what having an arm literally made of suction cups is worth in terms of being disarmed. 2. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is full climb speed at 12. A little late for me, but I would have liked to seen this at like 10 or 8. But, you know, we're getting precision resistance, bludgeoning resistance, critical hit resistance. We've got peculiar anatomy. We got a +2 circumstance bonus against disease and poison. We pick up poison damage resistance. In addition, our precision resistance is now 7 plus our feats, and our bleeding DC drops from 13 to 8. So here's the thing. You know, all in, if we picked up, I mean, obviously we have to pick up the dedication. If we picked up disturbing defense, and then we picked up, we have no choice, but we have to pick up vacate vision, but maybe we can skip that somehow. I don't know. We could skip ooze empathy because whatever. But like if we picked up disturbing defense, rubbery skin, uncanny suction, and peculiar anatomy, that's 5 feats, 1 dedication plus 4 feats. We have ourselves a pretty nice amount of resistances at this point. Pretty good persistent bleed resistance. We've got resistance to disease, poison, saves, poison damage, precision damage, bludgeoning damage, critical hit damage. That actually is kind of all in. Corel, I agree with you. That is probably the one thing that's missing, is the ability for us to kind of, I don't know, ooze through something. But against my better gut judgment, I mean, yeah, this is a flavor class because obviously it's an ooze, but the mechanics here, they kind of impress a little bit. You're going to have a lot of damage reduction. I would have loved to have seen the ability to like ooze through a crack or to like squeeze or something. No. We're not voting for this one on both because this is definitely not a mechanics thing. Like that's not the ooze thing. That's not something you do to me. Oh yeah. Like I love it when I become ooze like. That's not a mechanical thing. Ooze form is a level 3 arcane occult spell. So we know what we can do. So we want to be about 3 levels below that. So like, or 3 spell levels. So like maybe like a level, we can have it like be like another level 12 feet. If we want to be a little bit powerful, we could make it a level 10 feet, but we would have something, once an hour, once a day, Boothby, we could cast ooze form. I don't know. I'm digging it. I really am. I don't think it's an A, but I see Chad is leaning towards B. I don't know. It's a weird feat. It's a weird one because I do kind of agree with, Min and Dre saying vote on both, but then Kragan says the class sounds like it should be flavor, but the archetype delivers mechanics better than flavor. I don't know that it doesn't deliver flavor. I mean, here's the thing. It's delivering the mechanics in a fun and flavorful way. And that's what I appreciate about it. But you're not taking this class to like fulfill an idea of what a mechanical build should be. You're taking this because you want to be a weird ooze person. But I kind of think this is a winner. You know what? I'm gonna give it an A for flavor. I kind of like it. It also speaks, I think, to the power of the mechanics. So you get to be flavorful and effective, and this will really give you some nice resistances. Ayla, I gave my Oozemorph player an ability that they can't yet control, where they can shape change into a custom ooze form if certain conditions are met. He loved it when it first happened, but it's not raw. Obviously not. Who doesn't want to be a weird ooze person? Let's be real. Me. I don't want to be a weird ooze person. I don't know. I'm so boring. I just like to be, things that are human or near human. And then I'm really interesting because of like the cool decisions that I make and the awesome choices that I have and the amazing heroic actions I go through. Here's the thing. Is the Oozemorph, for me, flavor-wise, like, no, I don't think I would ever be one of these. But I think someone who took this would not only find that they feel kind of like a freaking weird ooze man or ooze woman, but they would also feel like, I don't feel like I'm being, hamstrung because of this. We got people know I hate guns. Wish I could have somebody else come on the show and just do all the guns. All right, last one for the night, people. I gotta go. It's 10 o'clock. Although, if you want to hang out, there's some Legend of the Five Rings stuff I'm trying to work through. You are the Overwatch. So you're like the group scout. You let the position. You're like as the group's Overwatch, you might let the position go to your head. In such cases, you might think of yourself as the mastermind behind the chessboard and feel detached from your allies, thinking of them as little more than pawns on the field. But more like, why is this here? What does this have to do with anything? I mean, this thing is really trying to make this thing seem like this is really, really crazy. Finally, I could play Tracer in Pathfinder. Cheers, governor. Cheers, love. Oh, I think that's what she says. I've never played Overwatch ever. Yeah, exactly, Jahan, man. It sounds like you're like, why is this telling me that I can be a jerk? It's in the character description. Stop. This is just a very strange description intro. Okay. And then there's look at all this thing. And I can't help but think, man, this is from a later book. Is this just filler? Is this just filler? All right. Overwatch dedication requires expert in perception, which means to take this at level 2, you have to be a rogue or investigator. So, oh no, it's expert in perception, not a skill. Who starts with an expert in perception? Fighters, rogues, rangers, probably investigators. So that's probably it. All right. You're surrounded by an see, this isn't simulationist. This is very gamist, right? It's talking about your ability to tactically observe and assist with visual gear. With like look at they're mentioning here. Telescopes and binoculars. And then it says it's a 30-foot aura. What kind of 30-foot aura? Barbarians start with expert perception? That would be news to me. Yes, they do. Wow. Good for them. Good for the barbarian. All right. Clerics start with expert perception? Jesus Christ. Man, more things start with expert perception than I thought they did. Oh, all right. Good for them. Good for the clerics. Okay. So we have an Overwatch field aura. Boy, that screams fantasy hero. Bards too? Jesus. All right, Catholic did the math. Barbarian, bard, fighter, gunslinger, investigator, ranger, rogue, swashbuckler, thaumaturge. Thaumaturge. Of course the thaumaturge gets it. What doesn't the thaumaturge get? Not get. At class. All right. So we have our aura. Everyone gets a +2 circumstance bonus for perception to initiative. So it's like the skill feat that makes your scouting better, or like the rogue thing gets scouting better. Yeah. No skill improvements? This isn't that great. I mean, it's very useful. Don't get me wrong. This is very useful, but I've seen this ability a million times where you make your scouting better. I should also point out that, a lot of classes that get improved initiative, this doesn't stack with it. Good night, Mike. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry we went so late, but, people want a whiteboard. What can I say? Spyglass modification. Here we go. Your enhanced visual gear includes a regulating scope and reflectors. I just cannot take... I hate tech and guns in a fantasy game so much. Combined in an ingenious setup that allows you to see around corners. It's a hell of a... What am I doing? Am I putting a mirror out in front? This allows your Overwatch field to extend around a corner. Okay. And yeah, I can't see around the corner, but I can see around the corner. Let's read this. Can we read this? Your enhanced visual gear includes a regulating scope and reflectors, combined in an ingenious setup that allows you to see around corners. You can't see it around a second corner. Just one corner. So we can see around a corner of 30 feet. But we can't attack. I don't even know what's happening when I use this. Okay. Swift intervention. We're wielding a ranged weapon and an ally within our 30-foot fields fails to balance, grab a ledge, maneuver, or arrest a fall. Make it... Oh my gosh, here. You're burdened with noticing... Because of this, you've learned that a well-placed shot can prevent disaster. Guns and Gears is like the NRA. Guns and Gears treats guns as like the solution to every single problem. Oh, you're bleeding? Here, gun. Shh. Oh, you're falling? Gun. I'll shoot the falling out of you. Oh, you gotta jump up to that building? Gun. Blast off. Oh, there's a lock? Gun. Shoot it off. Like literally the entire Guns and Gears is just about figuring out all the ways that you could use a gun to just do about anything. I want to look around that corner. Mirror gun. It's like the craziest thing. Okay. So we shoot them to make them correct their balance. What kind of a hotel is this? So if I'm going to fall off the ledge because I failed a balance check, so that my ally shoots me with a gun and that corrects my balance? This is more magical than Burning Hands or Chain of Lightning or the Wish spell. All right. Topple Giants. When an ally within your Overwatch field attempts to disarm, shove, or trip an opponent and fails, you can give them a +2 bonus to their next check. Oh, nope. It's a +2 bonus to the next athletics check rolled by a different ally to attempt the same action on the same target before the target's next turn. Push him again. Wide Overwatch. It extends the aura in which I'm just going to say this. It's called Overwatch, but I'm just going to imagine that this person's like Domino, from the mutant Domino she was in one of the Deadpool movies. She has the ability to just like manipulate luck and reality around her in a certain aura. I'm just going to assume that is what this class is doing. In which case, at level 10, you can extend your aura of reality shaping from 30 feet to 60 feet. And a success on disarm doesn't trigger Topple Giant, but it doesn't even disarm them. Hey, I messed with their grip a little bit. Good job, buddy. I've got nothing for you. Forewarn. All right, reaction. Once a minute, an enemy within our Overwatch field, which is probably 60 feet by now, attempts an attack against an ally who is also within our Overwatch field. So this seems pretty reasonable that this is going to come up a lot. Your foresight and planning are more valuable than armor as you direct your ally away from danger, but there's a limit to how often you can guide your allies away from a foe's relentless assaults. Why? Why is there a limit? The triggering attack roll targets your perception DC instead of your ally's AC. Though this allows your ally to avoid taking penalties to their AC, it doesn't remove any conditions or other effects causing penalties. So they're not using their armor class, they're using my perception. But if they were flat-footed or clumsy, they would still get those penalties to their armor class. Oh no, they wouldn't. But they would still be flat-footed. So they would still get hit by a sneak attack. But they wouldn't take the penalty, which is very strange. How are they flat-footed if they're not taking the penalty? Also, I can only do this once a minute? Hey, walk out! Sorry, I can't do that for 56 more seconds. Why? Why is this happening? All right, Master Spotter. You go to Master. By the way, you need to have Master to even take this one. So if you were some odd reason a class that has expert perception, but you didn't get Master, now you can get Master through this archetype. I mean, that's pretty good. Control Tower. You are like a god unto this battle. They make it seem like you're some sort of like Machiavellian mastermind and that the entire battlefield is just dancing on your puppet strings. What is the gunslinger's perception progression? That's a great question. Let's bring up the old GS. You know we started expert. Boom. And then we get Master at 7. So the gunslinger has had this for about 5 levels already, Lampley. In fact, my guess is the gunslinger might even be a legend by then. Okay. The gunslinger never gets... Oh, he does get legendary perception, but not until 19. Okay. But he's a master at 7. Just FYI. Kragan, I don't think spellcasters get master perception by 12. Could be wrong about that, but I don't think that they do. They started trained. They pick up expert like level 3 or something like that. No, not even. Look, they don't get expert until 11 if you're a wizard. And they never get master. There you go. So barbarians start with expert perception, but they don't even get master until 17. The barbarian, you know, the one who is like has a literal class feature that allows them to like sense danger and react to, you know, behind them. Like, how does the barbarian get, you know, you're not flat-footed, hidden, or undetected to enemies, but they don't get master until 17? Doesn't even make sense. Sure enough, there it is. All right. In my game, I would give barbarians legendary perception. Maybe later, but I would get them to legendary. All right. Control tower. You are the god of the battlefield. You and your allies within the Overwatch field get a +2 circumstance bonus when using the seek action. Yes. Think about how many times in your campaign of playing 3 years of Pathfinder 2 that you or anyone in your party or group has used the seek action. And the answer is going to be probably zero, but there may have been that one time. You and your allies don't have to succeed at a flat check to target a concealed creature, not invisible, but concealed. And if they are hidden, they reduce the flat check to 5. This last part is reasonable. That is a thing. Ignoring concealment and reducing hidden down to 5 is a thing, especially if you're taking advantage of a lot of the spells and abilities in the game, which create like a field of concealment, which affects everybody. No, Luke, seeking is different from searching and scouting. Searching and scouting are exploration actions. Seeking is a one-action activity in which you pick a conal area in order to make checks to detect hidden and undetected targets. Converge, last one. All right, here we go. Trigger. We have made a successful range attack against an opponent who is within our Overwatch field and who is within the reach of one or more of our allies who is also within the Overwatch field. Yes, 30 feet, Luke. So we hit somebody with our ranged weapon and we got an ally nearby. And then we spend a reaction on our turn. Informing your ally of an opening created by an assault, you coordinate to set them to hit up a target at the same time. Your ally can make a melee strike against the target creature as a reaction. This strike doesn't count towards that ally's multiple attack penalty, and their multiple attack penalty doesn't apply to this strike. It never would, right? Because it's not their turn. If your ally strike is successful, combine it. This is a good feat. This is not bad. I mean, this is hit, ally gets a free attack. No map, which would be no map anyways, because you don't have multiple attack penalty when it's not your turn. And here's the thing. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, 2 people are spending a reaction for a single attack. At 0 map, I think that's worth it. I mean, I'd point out that the rogue can do this for just a reaction. But it's nice that the Overwatch person can grant that to somebody else. I mean, but this isn't bad. I mean, you're level 16. I would hope that this is pretty good. Sure, Roxley, you're right. There is that situation, but either way, it does not apply. So, and combining the damages before resistances is 2. By the way, people always act like that is an advantage, but what if we were fighting like an ice giant and my weapon was flaming and my ally's weapon is flaming guess what? We don't get to trigger the weakness twice. We only get to trigger it once. So it's most of the time I think it's a washout. When they do this stuff, most of the time it's a wash. All right, well, the Overwatch is obviously a mechanical class. It's kind of trying to be that, it's trying to be that kind of, I don't want to say bard, but it's kind of a support. I don't know, like a visual range, close combat support. It's kind of a martial feel to it, right? But not quite as good, obviously. Our martial was an S, almost, an A, almost S. I don't know. It's not my favorite. I'll tell you that. I don't think I would give it a B, but I don't think it's a D either. Yeah, I mean, again, this is not a flavor class, so we're not really going on the flavor of it. We're going with how effective mechanically is this at doing the thing that you want to do. I mean, this really doesn't do a whole lot for you, I don't think, personally. I mean, +2 to your allies is nice, but there's like a general feat that does that. The fighter gets it for free. I guess your allies don't have to take that feat, but whatever. Perception bonus to initiative is the most common type of initiative, so that's totally fine. The looking around corners thing is kind of weird. This is so circumstantial and stupid. You shoot your ally with a gun so they don't fall off the ledge. Listen, I don't want to be your ally. This one's super circumstantial too. Like, 1 million people have to be making the same checks against people. But at higher level, it gets better. This is, the last couple feats here were pretty good. And this final feat, Converge, is probably the best one. So. 3 Rontgen. Not great, not terrible. C. Okay. C it is for the Overwatch. Okay, well, we had some obviously all-stars today. And medic and martial artist obviously stood out incredible. The flavor ones were a little kind of more middle of the road. Mummy, I got to admit, I disappointed by the Mummy. But Mauler and Overwatch kind of just come in middle of the road. They're fine. They're not great. They're going to check the boxes. They're going to do the thing. I don't think you're doing anything bad by going into that route. But the Mummy, I think the Mummy disappointed me, and the Mindsmith disappointed me. I would have put the Mindsmith at like a D, but chat felt strongly that it was a C, and I respect the chat sometimes. Not every time, but I respect the chat. So yeah, almost 10 o'clock. Took us 3 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know what? It does take us a while to go through these. I mean, we only had one.
Good, I can't maneuver. Stay on target.
Stay on target tonight.
Stay on target.
So, what do we got left? So that's the O's. We did it. We actually got through everything. So we have the P's left. I think there's a lot of P's and S's. So we've got Packbound, Packbinder, Packbound Initiate, Pathfinder Agent, Pirate, Pistol Phenom, Poisoner, Provocateur, Psychic Duelist, Reanimator, Red Mantis Assassin, Ritualist, Rune Lord, Rune Scarred, Scout, Scroll Trickster, Scroll Master, Scrounger, Sentinel, Shadowcaster, Shadow Dancer, Shield Marshal, Sixth Pillar, Sleepwalker, Snarecrafter, Sniping Duo, Soul Warden, Soul Forger, Spell Trickster, Spell Master, Spell Shot, Staff Acrobat, Sterling Dynamo, Student of Perception, Sword Master, so million S's. Talisman, Dabbler, Time Mage, Trapsmith, Trick Delver, Turpin Row Lumberjack, Undead Master, Undead Slayer, Unexpected Sharpshooter, Vampire, Vehicle, Mechanic, Vigilante, Viking, Weapon Improviser, Wellspring Mage, and Wrestler, which is a favorite of many people, Zephyr Guard, Zombie. So we still got probably 4 streams, maybe give or take, left of archetypes. It'll probably end up being 5. But we're here for it. We're here for you. Ayla says, still 50 viewers. Quick, start talking about GNS to go back to single digits. Yeah, well, listen, good stuff. I'm sure people will start to kick it off. It's 10 o'clock here, so I'm probably going to wrap it up myself here. So again, that's what we have. It'll look obviously completely crazy because things will be overlapping and all sorts of other nonsense. But, you know, we do have the other ones in here as well. You can go back to the beginning of the stream if you want to see that. But eventually what we'll do when these are all done is we will combine it into a Google spreadsheets list, and we'll publish that and make that available as part of our offering, you know, for everybody to be able to look at and link. So, and after that, would you do one more with the streams you left on the side from previous streams? Yes, we've got things like the Geomancer archetype, and we had a couple of those crazy specific ones. Yes, I'm including that. We'll probably go back to do those as well. So yeah, I agree. Maybe that'll be a tip goal, Lou. I always like having a nice tip goal. So, all right. So that's all we have, I guess, for tonight. Tier ranking all equipment. Never. Yeah, we got Legend of the Five Rings tomorrow. We did a session 0 last week, but you know, the characters are so complex, and there's some, and not like in a mechanical way, but there's some mechanical crunch to them for sure. But there's so much interesting stories about these characters and these samurai, and understanding their place in society, and it's very important to understanding the game. You know, Bob is married. I think Bob is married. I think my other player, George, I think they're both married. They were, you know, one of them, I think, married into the clan family that they're a member of. And, you know, like those are important NPCs. And you almost want to kind of detail that relationship and really kind of figure out what everybody is and how everybody's operating and really get into the nitty gritty of it. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if we're doing like a session 0 part 2, or if we're going to start to try to do some samurai Bushido action, but I think it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. It'll be a nice change of pace from D20, which has been my focus for certainly for the last year and a half with this channel. A real hallmark of experienced role players. Everyone isn't a lone orphan. Yes. So what we actually have is Bob is a member of a family called the Kitsu, who have the ability, sort of the genetic ability, to kind of like Haley Joel Osment. They can talk to dead people. So he can like reach out and talk to his ancestor spirits. And the Lion clan that they're a member of really, really values and their ancestors. It's a big part of their culture, is remembering the greatness of their forebears and their forefathers and their foremothers. And so Bob has this unique ability, you know, unique in the, you know, not unique, but rare in the game world. But of course, you're a PC, you know, you can have that. And it'll be really interesting for him because his character sees himself as sort of, you know, a very rare and special individual with this unique ability. But, you know, maybe he's harboring a dark secret as well, because there's a spirit that's been trying to guide him to deeper and deeper places within his spiritual journey. And there's this question of like, what kind of spirit is this? Is it a dark spirit, or is it a beneficial spirit? And we don't rightfully know. And then our other friend, George, he made an Ikoma bard, which is a storyteller and a person who embodies the history of the Lion clan, who is sort of a written and living memory of all these great deeds of their ancestors. And they're sort of recording historians, but he's very much a warrior, and is kind of interested in being a part of the action to sort of be there firsthand, which I think is really interesting. And then Mr. Smith has made a kind of older, you know, I say older, but you know, we're all 40 now. He's made an older samurai who I don't believe is married, was sort of a prodigy at the great kind of the Akoto War College, which is sort of like the West Point. It's like the best military academy in the entire Emerald Empire. And he graduated, but there was some sort of tragedy that happened to him, and he turned instead to swordsmithing and being a master of making katanas and bladed weapons, or samurai weapons, and has been doing that for some time. And then recently, his old friend, who instead went out and won glory on battlefields, his old friend was recently honored with the title of daimyo and now has a plot of land and sort of the great responsibilities that come with being a daimyo and the ability to have samurai sworn to his service. And the daimyo reached out to his old friend and his friend's master and said, he would be honored if, his friend would join him in forming his new domain and his new house. And so he has joined sort of his old friend, and they kind of used to be, I think, equals, maybe back like in the college days when they were at the War Academy together. But then whereas he went off, his friend went off and became this great leader. Now he finds himself sort of serving that former friend and, having put aside the blade for so many years, and now finds himself, thrust into the heat of action. So it'll be really interesting to see what we do with all these characters and how it plays out. But let's see, Ayla, if you were right. Did the stream plummet after I started talking about Legend of the Five Rings? Oh, no, not too much. Some people have, some people had asked, hey, you should do like recaps of like what's going on in your Legend of the Five Rings game, because we don't record it because it's our private home game, and it's just nice to have a place where the cameras are turned off. But I said, do you want me to, maybe I could make like a blog article for the patrons, make a Patreon exclusive thing. And some people said that they would prefer a video or something like that, where it's just a little bit more like a vlog, like an update. So we might still do that, but I don't know if it'll be a Patreon exclusive or not. I'll always let the patrons decide. Roll for Combat is here. What's up, Mr. Glicker? He says, are you still doing this? Stephen, we'll be doing this for the rest of time. We just finished up a little bit ago. We just finished up doing the M's and the O's. M, N's, and O's. By the way, Stephen, the folks on Knights of Last Call have been getting their doppelganger archetype, ancestry. And I got to say, the overall reaction from, I think, pretty much everybody has been that they are sufficiently impressed. They were all worried that this thing was going to be kind of nerfed into the ground and not be able to be a doppelganger, but everybody is pretty dang happy with the fact that the doppelganger can doppelgang and actually do the thing that you want a doppelganger to do. So pretty good on the designers there for delivering on that. So yeah, I mean, it shows. I mean, it is a well-designed ancestry with a lot of interesting choices, some powerful choices too. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think having interesting, powerful option. I don't think interesting should come at the expense of being powerful. And I think Mark definitely gave us some really nice options. I know that you can get greater dark vision and some other stuff. Like there's some really cool options there. And then the fact that the doppelganger effect works and you can just kind of doppelgang, I think is a big win for the ancestry. So yeah. Oh, I understand that, like on the scheme of things for what you're doing with Year of Monsters, doppelgangers are definitely on the easier side of things. You have some ancestries in that Year of Monsters. So I'm like, I don't even know how you're supposed to do this, but it'll be interesting to see. And of course, trying to balance it all while making it still interesting and fun and flavorful, that is a real challenge. So, all right. Well, it is past 10 o'clock, past my bedtime. I think we're not doing any sort of bonus streams this week, so we'll probably catch you next week as we move into the rest of February. We got a couple of things coming up. We're going to be doing the first look this month at Sentinel Comics, which is a superhero RPG. If we can fit it in, we may also do a first look at either one or both of these. And these are new books that I picked up. I have not opened them yet. I've only kind of barely looked at the table of contents. But these won a ton of rewards in 2021 from Ennies. And I just thought they looked so pretty. And I was going to buy them at Origins, but they were sold out. So I bought them on and got them. So I'm really interested in delving into these two games. They're kind of cousins to one another. They're kind of set in the same kind of general world. So we might do a first look on these this month, along with the Sentinel Comics. We're also going to be doing a Traveler deep dive this month. And Rick S. is going to be joining us, who is like a Traveler expert. And we're going to talk about Traveler the same way we kind of talked about Fate with John last in I think it was December, end of December. And we're going to be giving away some Traveler books. So anyways, we got some fun stuff coming up. And of course, we are trying to get that studio finished so we can get in there and start some actual plays back up. And we're going to be doing some root games, but then after that, who knows? Maybe it could be Avatar Legends. Maybe it ends up being one of these, Spire or Heart or Sentinel Comics or something that we think is fun. But, we want to have fun with the channel this year. And of course, at some point, we're going to be bringing back some Pathfinder 2, I think. We just got to find the right group, the right adventure, the right I guess I would say the right system. I mean, it's Pathfinder 2, but at some point I do want to get some Pathfinder 2 getting played on the stream again. So, all things to look forward to. So, all right, everybody. That is all I have for you this evening. Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you all around. Remember to like and comment and subscribe. Ring the bell so you know whenever we go live. If you've enjoyed tonight's conversation and you want to be part of the conversation 24/7, check us out. Patreon.com/Knights-of-Last-Call. You get access to our Discord. You get access to our bonus videos. You get access to our PDF releases when we release them. You get access to our Northern Reaches game, which will be restarting here in a few weeks. You get access to a lot of fun stuff. And of course, this incredible, awesome, amazing community of almost 300 dedicated role players who are very, very fun, very, very understanding. And you're going to learn a lot, not just about Pathfinder 2, but a lot about a lot of games. So look forward to it. Hope we see you there, and we'll see you next time. Knights of Last Call.